Well, if the mic is
Once we go,
on,
I have it go live at 5:58, so that.
I'm just trying to, as an example.
I think we should go synchronized all at the same time.
So Taylor, last week, I think a bunch of us weren't talking into the mic and we weren't pressing the button on time. And that, if we do that, we don't get heard. Is that correct?
If your mic is not green and you're talking, the stream will not hear you.
yeah,
Okay.
so
I think we did that a
that's-
bunch of times.
Well, right, that's why I sent out to make sure that like,
Right.
when we start, to make sure that you're on.
Right.
Because it's not gonna pick up background noise, so it'll.
Right.
It's not gonna do feedback or anything like that, so.
Okay. I remember
But
it
we-
was you then that sent it.
Taylor, we have to be this close? Is this,
No, so that, like, the stream is gonna pick up pretty much upwards of 2-ish, 3-ish feet. If you want to be
It's
more
not,
ample
it's
in the
not.
room,
I just,
you need to
I'm
get a little
surprised I
bit
didn't see
closer,
it.
and I can also
I'll look
adjust
later.
from my end.
So, red, you can curse.
No cursing.
okay, here we go.
That's when I asked Taylor to mute the microphone.
Here you go. Page 590.
Yes, there's a 3-second delay, so
On the roof, we have blowing the new out of gutters, and I said, let me know that you're live when you're done. I just got a text, both feet on the roof.
nice.
Okay, this is an issue. Mine isn't even
Last time he did it, I watched him.
Yeah, I get it.
No, it's gonna zoom right in on you, Cynthia.
No, I know. Well, usually I'm like over here, you're in the dark spot. Right here, have you noticed that?
October 9th.
Yeah, I haven't seen this work yet.
Yeah, check it out.
We're a little early. Give it 1 minute.
We were just commenting how smiley we were.
Commissioners, if I could ask you to turn your mics on.
We're hearing it's not that hot, but we have to talk into it.
We'll see.
Yep. For those watching tonight's meeting virtually, the meeting is available to live stream via the Park District website. All information about Park District meetings can be found at winpark.org under the Park District Info tab by selecting Board Meetings and Videos. Public comments are accepted in person. A link to the video and audio will be posted immediately following this evening's meeting. To improve the sound while listening to the meeting, please turn up the volume on your computer and turn up the volume on the website. There is a slight picture delay when the video switches between camera views. The audio will remain on during this brief delay. The meeting packet for tonight's meeting is located on the website. For those attending tonight's meeting, the emergency exits from the room are the door behind you or through the foyer. If you do not hear well, please ask our on-site staff for an assistive device. The board asks for your cooperation to maintain decorum. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members and other speakers. Welcome to the October 23, 2025 Winnetka Park District Board of Commissioners regular meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. and ask Saba to take a roll call for attendance.
Thank you. Commissioner Cotto,
Present.
Commissioner Corley,
Here.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Here.
Commissioner Seaman,
Here.
Commissioner Tyson,
Here.
President Gibson.
Here. At this time, I'd like to ask those who are able to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shannon, at this time, do you have some public announcements for us?
I do. So we have some upcoming events, including Pumpkin in the Woods tomorrow, Friday, October 24th, from 4 to 6 p.m. at Hubbard Woods, and Geological Exploration on Saturday, November 8th, from 10 a.m. to noon. To learn more and register for these events, please visit us on our website. I'd also like to let everyone know that the applications for the Golf Services Advisory Board are up on our website at this time. If you go to the Park District website under News, you will see an item that says Golf Services Advisory Board, and that will lead you to the application, which are being accepted through November 13th.
Thanks, Shannon. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any requests for changes or additions to tonight's agenda.
I do. I'd like to remove item 3.2, which are the minutes from the meeting of October 9th, for further discussion.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the October 23rd, 2025 regular meeting agenda as amended per Commissioner Root's request?
So moved.
Second.
This is a voice call vote? Or a voice vote?
All in favor?
All in- Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I was supposed to do that. All right. So we have moved on to Section 2 of the agenda, and this is your opportunity as members of our public to address the board on any issue. When called upon, come to the center position in front of the commissioners and stand at the podium. Speak into the microphone, state your name for the record, and speak directly to the board. Based on the public comment policy described in the Board Policy Manual and referenced in Public Access Counselor Opinion 2024 PAC 81900, guests may present public comment for no longer than 3 minutes after being recognized. If you prefer to share your comments in writing this evening, you may do so by leaving them with a member of the Park District staff. Taylor, can you run the clock, please? Thank you. So could I ask anyone that would like to participate in public comment in the front row to please stand and state your name?
Hello, friends. Warren James. Did you miss me? It's been 5 months since my last board meeting, and I must admit, I really don't miss the 4-hour meetings. I came here tonight to address several issues, and seeing how my time is limited, I'll try to be succinct. Regarding the plans for Eldrin Centennial and the fact that only one consultant, GZA, responded, you have to conclude the coastal engineering community knows there's discord in Winnetka. What a shame that we cannot attract a better qualified group. I would urge you to reconsider Red Barn and Shabika, as they're eminently qualified and have many alternative plans already designed. Starting over is a waste of taxpayer money. Moreover, please limit further spending on construction documents until such time as the special use permit is secured. When you do reapply for special use permits, submit only the plans necessary to satisfy the planning and zoning requirements. Do so with discrete permit applications, separating the shoreland work from the lakefront. The hearings can be concurrent, but the permit application should be separate, as the shoreland work does not involve the IDNR or the Army Corps of Engineers. Access issues have nothing to do with the breakwaters. I'd like to reinforce this fact. It is not appropriate to impose residential design standards on public property. The arbitrary enforcement of the steep slope ordinance, thereby preventing emergency, maintenance, and ADA access to Centennial Beach, is absurd, and if necessary, it should be challenged in court. The Village of Winnetka should acknowledge a special use permit is not a building permit, and detailed review of construction documents is not necessary until such time as the special use is approved. I urge you to keep the access plans for both Elder and Centennial as is. The WPD spent great sums to prepare detailed construction documents. Replicating them is another waste of taxpayer dollars. The length of an ADA accessible path is a simple math equation. Maximum slope of 8.33% with minimum 5x5 rest areas every 50 feet. A straight run is the shortest run. In any event, you still need to descend the 17 to 20 feet from the mid-bluff to the beach. And remember, there's nothing natural about the bluff at Centennial. It was reconstructed in 1987 after it collapsed into the lake, and the vegetation is volunteer growth, including invasive species. I encourage you to insist upon timely consideration from the village, ideally with a joint hearing from the ZBA and Plan Commission. Candidly, I'm appalled by the political gamesmanship that resulted in a 2+ year delay in consideration of plans that were ready in October of 2023. Finally, I want to note that on Tuesday, the Village of Winnetka approved a change order bringing the total cost to replace 65 feet of storm sewer pipe inside the Elder Pier to $316,250. The Park District offered to remove half the pier and damaged pipe at its expense. Meanwhile, the end of Tower Road Pier, a village-owned community asset, has been fenced off with chain link and jersey barriers for the past 5 years with no resolution in sight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the front row who would like to give public comment? Oh, please step up.
Good evening. I'm Alexandra Nichols, 900 Mount Pleasant in Winnetka. I'm the one who last December 6th at the Christmas tree lighting fell and knocked out 6 of my front teeth at that ceremony. And I'm here tonight to do 2 things. One, to thank the Paderma people very, very much because they received my request, my claim for the accident, and they paid it fully. And I'm very appreciative for that. And I want you all to know that. That was very important to me. And I think you should know that now that you're in your budget planning procedure, which is always a very important part of a body like yours, that you take into consideration the Winnetka Park District had an ordinance in 2016, a complete plan to do lighting at Dwyer Park. It was never instituted, right? They never fulfilled it, and they should have, but they didn't. And now that you have time to know that a terrible accident had took place there, I had 6 months of horrible dental surgeries and extractions and root canals and one thing after another, a lot of pain and distress. I would pray that this would never happen to another person. So I'm asking you, as you're at this time in your planning, that you put in the budget a plan for paying for the lighting at Dwyer Park. It's really important, if there are going to be any events there, that you protect the people who attend and that nobody else ever comes, particularly to the Christmas tree lighting, and is hurt again. And as you know, that Park District, you can turn that light bulb out. It's not on every single night when the park is closed. So it's not a danger to the kids. It's not a danger to the neighborhood. If it's low lighting, which has been proposed in this plan in 2016. So I'm hoping that you will look into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we move to the second row? Do we have any public comment? All right, what about the third row? Do we have any public comment in the third row? All right. Oh, please come up.
I feel you, Susie.
I'm sorry I'm late, but I just want to clarify a statement I just heard regarding the condition of the bluff in 1987. I was there the night before the bluff collapsed, as it was just stated that the bluff collapsed. I was there the next morning to view the damage that had occurred, and obviously, as a park commissioner, along with my fellow commissioners and the director, deal with the situation. It was not a full, there's the whole Centennial Bluff from the south end to the north end. It was one central part where they have those little cove things that were, I think there were 3 that were originally supposed to be there, and kind of one shows up clearly right now. But it was one small section. Granted, it was a good chunk, and it was right where all the commissioners were standing, hence why the director was a little upset, thinking that he could have lost all his directors going vertically down on an evening's tour. But we were in the process of looking at how to deal with the high water of 1987, and that section obviously was included in, and the presentation in the past, and what I presume just went on before I came in, is correct on the steel sheet piling and everything like that, but it was not the whole bluff, it was just a section. And it was a section that had been sort of manufactured into a cove as opposed to just a straight bluff that you see mostly along our shoreline in Winnetka. But that's my only clarification. Thank you.
We now are moving on to section 3 of our agenda, and this is the consent agenda section. Does anyone wish to have an item added to or removed from the consent agenda? Commissioner Root?
I believe earlier in the meeting, I asked for 3.2.
Yes.
And in deference to our visitors here this evening, I'm happy to place that later on in the agenda, so those coming to make a presentation or visitors
Okay.
don't have to stay to hear that.
So should we move it to, you want to move it to 6.3?
Yeah.
6.3 is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Rapp?
Is it also okay to remove item 3.5? I observed that Elsa Fisher is here
Oh, yes.
for this item.
Okay.
And so, if that's okay,
Yes.
just in respect to the fact that she's come.
So should we move that to just before presentation, like before 4.1?
Yeah, that would be
Okay,
perfect.
so we'll make that 4.0.
That assumes that there's a presentation prepared, right?
I don't think that, I'm not expecting a presentation.
If we're moving to the presentation section?
So moving it just before presentations.
Oh, yeah, I said just before, okay, yes. Actually, I think
Okay.
we'll move it to, we'll make it section,
I guess that also assumes that there's questions as well,
okay. Let's make it,
Discussion.
discussion.
Comment.
Yeah, all the above.
President Gibson, you can just move it to right after consent if you'd like to
okay,
do
let's
that.
move it to right after consent. Thank you for the clarification. All right. Do we have any other requested changes? No? May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So at this point, we are going to move to Elsa regarding the
Hold on, we
comprehensive.
gotta
Oh,
vote.
Roll call.
Yeah, we got to vote.
sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Corley,
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. As we move through tonight's agenda, I'd ask that the commissioners keep their comments to 3 minutes per item, with one opportunity to speak on each item. If there are matters that require additional follow-up from staff and cannot be addressed immediately, those items may be tabled by a majority board vote to a future meeting. It's important that we respect the time of our community, so let's keep the focus and length of our discussion to 3 minutes, please. At this point, I'd like to invite Elsa to come up and talk about the comprehensive master plan a bit.
We haven't prepared a presentation?
Yeah, I
Right.
wasn't sure, where were you going with that?
I just, since Elsa has taken the time to come to be here for this meeting, I wanted to take the
Okay.
opportunity to publicly acknowledge and thank Barry Dunn for their work on this plan.
Thank you
I was
very
not,
much.
when I saw it on consent agenda, expecting you to be in attendance, but I think given the significance and the hard work of everyone in this room, of everyone at Barry Dunn, of everyone in the community, that it was worth a short, brief acknowledgement of that effort and expression of gratitude to the team for that. It's been some time, if ever, that the Winnetka Park District has had such a detailed and thorough plan. So I personally really appreciate the effort that your team put in. I appreciate the effort that the Park District staff put in, because it was definitely a lot, and I certainly respect the work and appreciate the effort of my fellow commissioners to make this happen, both past and present. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Well said, Cynthia.
Yep.
Yes, very well said.
All right. Perfect, thank you. I wasn't sure where that was going, but all right.
Would you like me to make a motion to approve the plan?
I wasn't sure where you were going. So I'm like, oh, there's something
Yeah.
coming up that I didn't know about. All right.
Make that
So at this point, we'll move to section 4 of the agenda.
Would you like
No,
me
we
to
gotta,
make a
yeah, we
motion
gotta
to
make a
approve the plan?
motion because we took it out of consent.
Oh,
We took it out of consent,
Yeah.
so
all
she
right,
needs to.
all right.
Make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion at this point to approve the 2025 Winnetka Park District Comprehensive Master Plan.
So moved.
Yep.
Second.
Can we take a vote?
Take a vote.
Motion, and there was like motion in the second after that, too.
Go ahead.
Commissioner
Ready to approve this, Adam?
Commissioner Corley,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
We will get approved by the Park Board October 23rd, 2025 on the cover, and then we owe you some prints, and I'll work with Shannon to get you copies.
Fabulous.
Paper copies. Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elsa.
See you guys later.
Very excited to finally get to the Paddle Hut expansion discussion. Costa?
President Gibson, thank you. This evening, we have with us Colin Cross. He's going to be presenting on behalf of the Winnetka Platform Tennis Club, and give an update as far as where the project is to date for the expansion plan of the facility. From here, I'd like to just hand it over to Colin to go through that update.
Thanks, Costa. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to provide the update. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Okay, you have to explain, what am I doing?
Try now. Right, yep, try right now.
Click the center button or the
It's gonna be a right arrow.
right arrow? Look at that. We have 2 new commissioners since we last presented in February, so I'll be a little bit repetitive from that date, but it's been 6 months. Do you have the video? Okay, short video, 90 seconds.
If you highlight it, it says, like, I think it's Control Command, and then there's a button that you press. So put your cursor over the video, Taylor, and then tell you what to do.
Sounds like you've done this before.
Costa knows everything.
So this is a video I took on February 12th of this year, and it was snowing. And I happened to be near the courts, decided just to pull the camera out. No sound. So this is what paddle in Winnetka in the wintertime is like. We play when it snows, which is actually a lot of fun. I could watch this video over and over again. It's just a wonderful opportunity to get out and hang with people. This is we serve food after every match. So here we are in the hut. Typically, 32 players play the first match, 32 players play the second match, and then they come in and eat in between. Right now, I counted about 30 to 35 people in the hut. That was out. So, yeah, it's a special experience to be able to play paddle all winter long. It's now actually played all year long, but I think this illustrates how much fun people can have playing. Again, do I press the right?
No, you had, sorry, you're good, yep.
Okay, so this is a repeat of what I talked about at the last one, but you know, for nearly 50 years, we've had an outstanding relationship with the Winnetka Park District and the Winnetka Platform Tennis Club. Initially, members of the community went to the Park District and asked if we could put some platform tennis courts in. Historically, it had been a private club, country club sport, not a public club sport. Winnetka was the first to do it, and we raised the money, the club raised the money to install the courts. In 2004, the current hut was constructed. In 2006, we added 2 additional platform tennis courts. In 2022, very recently, we added 2 more courts. So we're at 8 courts, which makes us the largest platform tennis facility in the country and certainly the largest public facility. Initially and throughout the entire period, the club has agreed to pay for all of the facility improvements as well as make sure that the operating costs are covered by the platform tennis community. And currently, the Winnetka Platform Tennis Club is the largest adult sports organization in the Park District. Currently, we have 670 members spread across 58 teams, 36 men's teams, 10% growth over the last 5 years, 22 women's teams, 26% growth over the last 5 years. One thing that we did in 2019 is we started women's programs on Monday night, initially as a house league, but the other clubs looked at it and said, that's a good idea, why don't we create a Chicagoland league? So currently, there is a women's league for Monday night play as well as Sunday night play. And we've added 8 women's teams on Monday night and 4 on Sunday night. So those are all brand new over the last 5 or 6 years, and hence that's where the growth has been, because women who have conflicts during the day need an outlet to play during the evening. As a result of that, possibly, we're seeing a lot more couples playing, which is a lot of fun, to be able to get out and hang with your spouse and get another couple together and play some paddle. The project history we're currently working on began in 2019, with phase 1 being the addition of courts 7 and 8, which were completed and went online in August of 2023. Phase 2 is to expand the hut and the deck. And we were given 5 years to do that from the village special use permit. The board unanimously approved it, and then we went through the process of complete special use permit from the village, zoning board, planning review board, design review board, village council, all approved this unanimously, and they generously gave us 5 years to begin construction. So we're in that period still right now, November of 26. So we decided to change the design. When we first went to the village and the Park District 5 years ago, we had a placeholder for what this hut addition could look like. It wasn't something that we spent an awful lot of time on because we weren't at that stage yet. What was that? Excuse me. So over a period of about 18 months, Brian Bertola's here, he's our architect. We went through numerous revisions to make sure that the new hut addition is going to take care of the needs of the community for many years, many decades to come. However, it's different from what we originally got approved. And so we sat down, Costa arranged the meeting on May 13th with the village to discuss an amendment to the special use permit. It was reviewed by the Community Development Department, who noted that the roof lot coverage was 230 square feet in excess of what we had approved. We reduced it to get within that limit, and we resubmitted the revised drawings. On October 8th, the community development staff indicated that the revised hut design is a minor change and that should only require review by the design review board and sign off by the village manager. I think it was Monday, Costa, that we got word that the village manager had signed off.
Correct. Yeah.
Subject to the design review board. So really, we've got one step left, which is the design review meeting, board meeting on November 20th. We've submitted all of the documentation necessary for them to review that. And upon approval, we will have until November 2nd, 2026 to break ground on the project. Proposed next steps. Actually, this is a list of a bunch of different steps. These are not sequential. A lot of these will happen at the same time. The commissioners have already approved for staff to work with us on the project. Number two, we need to resolve the easement issue that's ongoing. There is an easement that runs right through the center of the property. This is something that's been there for quite a while, but it's a critical path. It's got to be resolved. Excuse me. The initial meeting with the village to get the special use permit amended has occurred, and the approval is pending. The club will be engaging a civil engineer soon to address floodplain issues. Midwest Architectural Studio, Brian Bertola, our architect, will complete the detailed construction drawings. Presentation back to this board to review the progress, the final plans, and it says here, ask for approval to proceed with bidding. Once the final drawings are ready to go to bidding, we're going to want to go quickly. I'd just like to put that out there. I don't really want to wait 2 months for this board to say, oh, okay. I don't know how that works, but we don't have 2 months to sort of wait for that to occur. Just say that right now. It's important for us to get the construction bids in, so we'll know the total cost of this project. We're working on various funding methods. We have currently in excess of $850,000 in cash reserves. I'm talking to lenders about a possible loan. It's a little bit difficult because it's really a cash flow loan versus a collateral loan. Normally, you would borrow money from a bank and say, listen, I'm building a house. I'll put 50% down. They get a first lien. No problem. It's a little bit different. So we'll see how that goes, but I think we've got a good case. If that doesn't work, and contemporaneously, we've identified some large donors that we're going to approach. It really depends on how much the nut is, whether it's $1.5 million or $2 million. I anticipate it'll be somewhere in that range. Fully fund the HUD addition, complete the donation agreement with the Park District, apply for all required permits, and begin construction, hopefully in the summer. I don't know, that may be aggressive, but you know, that's what we're targeting. Revised drawings and elevations. This is the existing property, the bold area.
The top middle button is a pointer.
Okay, let's see how shaky my hand. Oh.
The top.
The top one, the middle top.
The top little circle.
Okay, I wasn't doing it. So you can see the bold here is the existing facility. This to the west is an addition, and this is a covered patio. These are the elevations of the existing facility. And this is what the new facility will look like. And what's important here is that we'll have essentially 2 clubhouses connected by walkways between the two. So there'll be an east clubhouse, a west clubhouse. And in the center here, whoops, let's go back up. Sorry about that, everyone. I think top button. Okay, in the center here is utilities, bathrooms, a small office for our pros, but there's a lot of room here because what we're looking at now in the video that you saw essentially is this area right here. We're going to have an advantage of having an outdoor covered patio here, which is a huge amenity because unless it's really cold, people will be hanging out outside. We'll have a grill area as well in the covered area there. This is some elevations of what it'll look like. This is looking at it from the parking lot, the top drawing. The bottom drawing is looking at it, I think, from the east. I think that both the east and the west are pretty much similar, though. You'll see on the next slide. The west looks a lot similar. The north, one of the key elements of these designs is to improve sight lines to the courts. So the window here is new. Right now, we don't have a window really capable of looking out on courts 5 and 6, which are to the north. And that's what it looks like from the front. So you'll walk up the steps or come up the ramp. And I think it looks terrific. So really just an update, make sure everybody understands where we are. The amendment to the special use permit has taken longer than I would have liked. It is what it is, as they say. Put it into the black box, and they let you know what the result is. But I'm pleased to show the progress that we've made.
Yeah, no, agreed. And just to add on that a little bit, as Colin suggested, the additional requirement for the certificate of appropriateness to take that additional review, that's going to take place, we're anticipating on November 20th, which actually coincides with the evening of our next board meeting. Or not next board meeting, well, board meeting, yes. So I'm going to be in attendance with Colin and presenting that there. If there's any questions that you guys have in regards to the design or anything else, I would love to get some intake from you guys if there's anything that your thoughts on the project. Otherwise, as we proceed to secure the special use permit, then Colin and his team will come back then for additional staff requests for time to continue the engagement further through this process. So I just want to kind of give that quick update as well. So are there any questions that I can answer or potentially Colin can answer for you at this time?
Commissioner Seaman?
How long would construction take, roughly?
Probably about a year, give or take. So.
Okay, 1 year. I'll just make one general comment. Listen, we have a great relationship, and it is unique, the number of adults that play paddle. It's like mental health, man. So I just want to make sure we continue to build upon the wonderful relationship we have with the paddle club.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Cotto?
I was just going to say, just keep us posted on the financing conversations. Obviously, the speediness with which we can respond is a function of how much we know.
Yes, yeah, I will.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner Rapp?
I just had a couple of questions. So the targeted timeline for construction is summer of 2026. So I'm assuming that would start after the tennis construction is done?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't both be?
Yeah, tennis construction will wrap up probably around June, we're hoping, if not sooner, depending on weather. The last thing that we'll have to complete is the color code for the courts. So once that would go back online, this potentially could go offline. Right now, that's an assumption. That's the best guess. So depending on the certificate of appropriateness, how that goes, how the fundraising goes, how the board decides how to proceed with staff and the development of this project further, the donation agreement that I'm sure will be forthcoming with that. Those are all things that need to kind of fall in place. But yes, they would not be,
Okay.
we're not anticipating them to be at the same time.
Okay, great. No, I was like, oh. It's super exciting. The hut looks fantastic. I know people have said that the space is constrained now. It's a wonderful problem that so many people are playing paddle. The only question that I have is, like, there'll be construction for the tennis courts, and then there'll be construction for the paddle courts. And just, thinking about parking and impacts on that, and what steps might be able to be taken to, like, retrain people to feel good about getting a little extra workout, parking in the Cherry Street lot. Because I think with paddle expanding, and then with golf, growing with the new course, and ice being open in the summer, and it just seems like this campus is a lot busier. And so to the extent that, people are thinking ahead to try and use the additional parking outside,
Well, for platform tennis, in fact, I played last week at a facility in Deerfield where they're redoing their pool, and they sent out an email to us saying, don't park here, park over there. It's another 5-minute walk. And so that's, so if we need to relocate or have people focused on knowing that there's limited parking where we want them to go, we'll just notify them that.
no, it's a good problem. It's a Winnetka level problem, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of parking there, but it does get crowded at times.
Yeah.
Obviously, during the day when golfers are there, that adds to it, for sure. Hopefully, the construction equipment will not take up too much of parking. That's right now, you could go over there and there's plenty of parking for general weeknight platform tennis.
Okay. No, that's good. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have maybe a question, it's a little too much minutia for this meeting, but where will you stage the construction from? It's sort of along Commissioner Rapp's question.
Have not thought about that yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
We'll review that along with all the areas that would be disturbed and what we need to do to stage that.
Okay.
There's opportunity to work from the compost area in
Yeah.
as well. Could get a little tight with the driving range, but there isn't a road outside of that, so we could definitely work around that and make sure that whatever is decided upon is laid out well, construction, traffic flow, as well as communication to the public, so people are aware of where to park, where not to park, and so forth. So it'll be addressed through that process.
Okay, perfect.
So along those lines, though, another transition issue or construction transition issue will be how do we handle food for everybody who shows up? And that's something that we're just going to have to work out with the Park District, whether or not we can use the tennis shack for food, whether or not we could use the golf facility for food, or some other way of handling that. But it's a big part of paddle is to feed we're the host, right? And when we go to another club, they feed us, we feed them. That's the way it works. So that transition plan, making sure we've got that nailed down before we break ground is important too, so that we don't stumble along the way and people have a bad experience. It's going to be a tough experience, but hopefully not a bad experience.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Cross.
everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
All
Costa.
right. Take care. Thanks, Costa.
Thank you. All right, and now we are moving on to Mr. Crocker.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Gibson. Tonight, we're going to see the third of three presentations regarding the 2026 proposed budget for the Winnetka Park District. I want to preface this presentation by saying that the feedback we've gotten from the board members, both at the previous two presentations and from this one, will be incorporated into a revised proposal. We will then present an entire 2026 revised proposal to the board prior to the next meeting on November 6th. So we have a more comprehensive and more finalized version for you to review. I mention that because within the last 24 to 36 hours, we've gotten updated numbers from both NSSRA and our medical insurance broker. So we've been furiously trying to recalculate the numbers in our budget. We still haven't heard from Pederma yet regarding some of our insurance costs, so those will be incorporated, I would say, within the next 10 days. Again, we hope to come back to you with finalized numbers at the November 6th meeting. So I just wanted to kind of put that timeline out there. So starting with tonight, we're going to talk about administration, the garage maintenance, parks maintenance. We'll review the major capitals, and we'll talk about the non-operating funds as well. So to begin, the general fund incorporates corporate administration, our garage program, and our parks maintenance. For 2026, we have added 3 full-time positions within the general fund, a systems analyst position and a purchasing specialist in corporate, as well as a park planner position in parks maintenance. Our operating revenues are projected to meet our operating expenses despite cost of living adjustments and an expected increase in medical insurance costs, which we will go into in more detail in a few moments. The overall fund balance does show a decrease on this presentation, but that decrease is going to go down based on the numbers we've gotten back from our medical insurance broker and other things. So again, we will update those numbers and get revised numbers to you prior to the November 6th meeting. All right, so here is our overview for the general fund. We project to begin the year. Where's that? Oh, there's. Okay. We project to begin the year with about $2,297,015 in reserves. We're projecting $4,928,000 of revenue in the corporate fund. It's primarily property taxes, some miscellaneous income, and some interest drawn off of Park District investments. We're projecting $5.7 million, a little over $5.7 million in operating expenses. We expect this number to come down based on the numbers we've received just recently. So our net operating income shows a negative $824,000. That number will shrink. We're projecting $398,000, $398,700 of capital expenses in the corporate fund for 2026. We are not projecting any transfers out to other funds as we did in 2025. That will help the fund. This negative net operating income will be negated by allocations to other funds. We project total expenses of $5,327,636. Once again, this will come down as we revise our numbers. And we're projecting to have ending reserves, $1,898,315. We expect this to go up slightly based on the new numbers we have. That meets the 25% restricted policy that the Park District has. And that includes meeting the $310,000 restricted money for Elder Centennial. Right. Moving on into right arrow, right?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. Here's our revenue projection in the corporate fund for 2026. We are projecting $4,415,620 in property taxes. That's an increase of a little over $500,000 from 2025. That is built on two items. The first is a 3.1% increase based on CPI from 25 to 26. And we are projecting to allocate $300,000 that would have gone to recreation fund to the corporate fund to cover expenses for 2026. Replacement taxes is a figure given to us by Cook County based on taxes that were not collected in prior years. Interest income, again, is based on CDs and investments that the Park District has. The Nutra parking fee is based on past year revenue, but this is currently under negotiation. This number may go up slightly in 2026. And then miscellaneous income is kind of a catch-all category for revenue that is either unexpected or not regularly planned for. So we are projecting a total revenue, again, of $4,928,936 for 2026 in the corporate fund. All right. Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty here. The pointer isn't advancing. There we go. Okay. Expenses. Thank you, Costa. So, salaries and wages, we're projecting $1,350,115. An increase over 2025. That's partly due to the two new positions we've added in the budget for 2026. We're projecting a slight decrease in supplies throughout in the corporate budget. We consolidated some accounts and eliminated some duplication that contributed to the savings. Program and maintenance services, $1,005,239, showing a $34,000 increase. A lot of that was based on the original medical insurance projections we put in at 20%. That number has come down significantly, so that number will shrink, as will the variance. Repair and maintenance is a slight increase over 2025. Utilities is showing an increase. Most of this is due to water consumption based on splash pads at one of our parks. Unfortunately, we have to use potable water there, and that, as Costa said, that literally is water down the drain. We're projecting operating capitals of $103,200. $100,000 of that is for the Park District master plans that we expect to undertake in 2026. Contracts payable is debt service. This number is fixed. The allocations, we will allocate out the excess expense we need to balance the fund. Transfers out is to the Parks and Maintenance Department. They are a true cost center. They don't generate their own revenue, so we transfer this money out to cover their expenses. So we have a total expense in this department of $5,078,977. And again, the salaries and wages includes an estimated 6% cost of living adjustment and 3% merit pool added to full-time positions. And then the 20% increase in medical insurance costs has come down significantly. Just yesterday, we were informed that the increase is going to be 9.27%, not 20%. So that will be slightly less than half of what we put into the budget for 2026. That was certainly very welcome news among all of us here. Moving on to, I'm sorry, are there any questions regarding that information for the corporate department?
And commissioners too, if I could give some clarifications on numbers, I'm, doing my best at mathing over here. So from when we put in the 20% for medical insurance, and this is across the whole district, right? So and then with the change to the 9.27%, that is going to be across the districts a savings of $113,111 and change. So that will be the savings on medical insurance from what we have currently in the budget now. So you'll see that when we do a comprehensive review at your next budget meeting. And also to clarify, when we budget for medical expenses, it's the entire premium that's in there, and which some of that is paid for from the withholdings from staff's salaries. So even though it is fully budgeted for the entire premium amount, the employee contribution is a reduction of what the responsibility of the park district is. And that is about, with the 9.27%, that's about just under $154,000.
Can I also add, this also includes paying the premiums for retirees that we get back from their the pension fund.
Yes.
They pay the pension fund pays us back. So they pay the premium in full. We just pay the HRA part of it for them.
We should net that out. I mean, I get, or we should show it in a revenue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we talked about it earlier today on how we can make that more
That's
transparent.
important. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have that in our accounting. It's just how do we make that more transparent for everyone to see that number?
Right.
So we had that conversation today.
Okay, great.
That's a footnote.
Absolutely, yeah.
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 Disclaimer, asterisk.
If there are no further questions, I'd like to turn it over to Kate Erickson to talk about the marketing budget for 2026. And this is your arrow, but it doesn't seem to be working very well.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. The marketing team kicked off 2025 by winning numerous marketing awards at IPRA conference, so that was very exciting. We won first place for our digital brochure. Very proud of Skylar Greenberg, our graphic design and media specialist, and the creativity she brings to our team, our little small and mighty team here. She brings a lot of creativity and excitement around the process. And we're continuing, as we kind of look into 2026, we're looking at, continuing to enhance and streamline how that brochure looks as we kind of tweak things as we go. We also won awards, which you'll see that photo right there. 2 photos, one being the photo here and another from our Easter egg hunt in 2024. We launched our printed brochure with our very first brochure going out this summer to over 6,000 homes. And we've received a lot of positive feedback from the community, and hopefully you all have too at the farmers market as you're talking with community members. Residents are saying they like going through the brochure with their kids and having them pick out activities and events they would like to try, and just having it in their kitchen and office at the ready, just to kind of look through programs that they might want to be doing. We are currently hard at work on the winter brochure, our third in the four-part series this year, and we look forward to residents receiving it in their homes the week of November 23rd. We've expanded our social media presence as well. We have 4,094 followers on Facebook. We gained 682 followers in 2025. And we currently have 3,350 followers on Instagram, and that was an increase of 203 followers this year. So combined on these two platforms, we had over 650,000 views. We're expanding our content to include more social media ads, video content, and recaps of our events, and we're going to continue to do that as we head into 2026. Social media is constantly evolving and changing, so we're really staying up on the trends with that. And we have a continued presence at our internal and external community events. You'll see our Together tagline kind of being interwoven when we are doing so with Better Together, when we join up with our community partners. You'll always find one of us in the marketing team at our events, taking photos and engaging with residents. Instead of outsourcing our photography and video work to outside resources, we really try to save on costs that way by doing it all in-house. We partnered with Winnetka Northfield Library on their story time in the park, and Winnetka's Children's Fair and various different chamber events, just to get our name out there and just different programs and just really joining forces within the community. I have regular meetups with Winnetka municipalities with our communicators group, and as well as a newly formed North Shore Park District's marketing and communications group, where we meet quarterly. We meet with Highland Park and Glenview, Northbrook, and we really kind of just share what's working for us and just some different ideas that we can kind of maybe work together on and that type of thing. As we head into 2026, we're going to have continued growth in social media. Like I said, just staying up on trends and coming up with new marketing campaigns and advertising. That's something that we're really kind of developing even further, just some different campaigns. Communicating, we're amping up our communication on news to our residents so that they're always up to date on maybe things happening. Costa's always giving me a call being like, we're closing this lot, or, just to really kind of make sure that the residents are aware of any changes that we might be having to make things a little bit easier and so that they know what to expect within the community. We're really ramping up to some different storytelling and through social media, just different exciting happenings within the district. We streamlined our expenses for the printed brochure. It'll be now, if you want to take a look here, will now be expensed out of the 0200 corporate fund. All printing and postage will now be expensed out of the 0200 corporate fund. I should be saying it that way. Enterprise funds will cover a percentage of printing and postage equivalent to the average number of pages within the brochure. In 2025, we did budget more because we didn't really know what the exact cost would be around printing. At that point, we were going out to bid to different printers. We weren't really sure and postage fees. After 2020, things really had changed in terms of the last time that we were printing our brochure. Postage was definitely a concern of ours. And so we budgeted more for that just to give ourselves a cushion there. And, we really weren't sure about the printing relationships and, what that cost would entail. So we were able to kind of keep costs down in that capacity. We were pleasantly surprised that, we were under budget because we were, kind of concerned about postage. And that is all I have, but not really all I have because we're constantly moving things along. But does anyone have any questions for me?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. People love the printed brochure.
Oh, good.
And I think it's probably going to play a role in increased participation. Because it really is fun for the kids and the family to go through it, and it's easier for people to see what's offered, not just what you want to look up on a website.
Right.
So I really think it's been fabulous.
Good, good. I'm glad
Thank
you're
you.
continuing to hear that.
I love what you do.
Commissioner Root?
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I get comments on social media, and those who, unlike me, have one foot in the grave, the younger community, really appreciate it. They like the notices. And then I have a question. This kindness certificate,
Yes.
would you tell us more about that? Because I thought that was awesome.
Well, are you talking about things we noticed?
Yes, things we
Okay,
noticed.
great.
Yeah.
That is actually Shannon's brainchild, and she was saying that she sits in her office and she sometimes sees things that she's like, uh-oh, don't be doing that. And instead of, going out and saying to someone like, oh, no, please pick up your trash, or your dog doesn't belong on Skokie Playfield, to really kind of reward people when we do see residents or community members picking up trash or doing the right thing and kind of going the extra mile. We've given all of our staff different cards, and you guys too, all of you commissioners. We've given you a stack of those as well. And when you see someone doing something good, if you just want to give them that card and say thanks, really appreciate it, and just really kind of rewarding when we see just people kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing, or maybe doing extra as well.
Is that like if you get 10, you get like a free pizza? I mean, is there
No, it's just
I mean-
kind of the goodness of your heart for now. For now,
like
we're
a
gonna see
lunch
how-
with Shannon? I mean,
Wow, maybe there's an idea.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that actually isn't a bad idea. Do you want to have a job in marketing?
no.
But no, that's, we'll kind of see how it goes. So please keep it in your purse, in your pocket. And as you're out in the community, please just give it to residents. And you might get some questions, and, maybe people will be like, and then what? It's really just, a nice pat on the back, and thanks, we noticed. So, yeah. Well, thanks for that comment. But yeah, we were excited to kind of put it together.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
At this point, I'd like to invite Greg Fields to come up and talk about the 300 department garage maintenance.
It's quite a picture, Greg.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me tonight. The garage maintenance 300 account might not be as flashy as marketing, but I'll try and make it interesting. Just going through the expenses of 0300. You'll see in salaries and wages, we have a small variance, decrease of $821. That's due to a reallocation, and you'll see that later on in the 400 account, which I'll get to next. And then in supplies, we have a 5% variance. That'd be an increase of $1,170. Program maintenance services, with the 30% variance, this is due to increased healthcare costs, but again, that was reflective of the 20%, which now has been distilled down, I think, to a 9.2%. And then looking forward at repair and maintenance, that stayed the same. Utilities, again, a small variance of $775. Operating capitals, That's a decrease of $2,500. That's due to just two small capital projects, which I'll discuss in the next slide. Salaries and wages. Wages and salaries reflect a 6% cost of living and 3% merit pool adjustment, as Jim mentioned in his portion. Program and maintenance services, projected increase due to costs or parts and availability in the industry. Just looking at capitals for 300 garage. One would be a replacement of our water heater at our shop. Again, that's just a commercial unit, that's why it's that much. And then, of course, fuel system enhancements and having dollars in there to keep our underground storage tank and fuel pump systems going. But again, that's a variance of $2,500 from 2025. Moving on to parks and maintenance, some of the 2025 highlights. In 2025, we purchased, and I know I brought this up a bunch of times at our previous meetings, trucks. We got 2 trucks finally in and a new mowing trailer for our mowing crew. We embarked on woodland management for 3 of our sites, Crow Island Woods, Franklin Dunbar Park, and Bell Woods. We're contracting with Pizzo. They've been out in these sites throughout the season. I believe there's one more site visit to those locations this year. And then, of course, sports court resurfacing out at Hap Road Park, which was a nice thing to finally finish off that new playground and put the cherry on top with that park. Looking forward to 2026 highlights. We're going to continue with Green Bay Trail improvements, which hopefully the last installment of paving to the north end, benches and garbage can recycling bin replacements and updating. Throughout the parks, we're also looking to replace some failed and aging drinking fountains. And then, of course, continued woodland and bluff management. In 2026, we're looking forward to delivering on a high-quality maintenance services to ensure community parks remain safe, clean, and welcoming year-round. Continuing park repairs and upgrades that meet or exceed safety and accessibility standards. And focus on sustainability goals and environmental stewardship. And lastly, promoting cost containment through creative solutions, including the use of staff sweat equity to maximize while minimizing expenses. That's a big one that we've been stressing over the years, is doing as much in-house work, trying to keep our costs down and delivering a better product for the community. All right, looking at 400 expenses, salaries and wages. As you can see, the variance, the higher variance there due to the reallocation from 0300, but also that includes the new position of a park planner in there. So that's a 23% variance. Supplies is a decrease. Program and maintenance services, as you see there, that's 171,191 variance of 45%, and that's driven again from the medical side of things, but that number should be adjusted as we now have realized actual numbers. Repair and maintenance, that's for some facility upgrades there. Again, that's a variance of 19,310. Utilities, as Jim mentioned, that's driven largely by water and the utility cost of that. So that has a variance of 32% at 14,309 from the year prior. And then operating capitals is a decrease of 178,700, and that wraps that. Wages and salaries, addition of the full-time park planner, as I mentioned, as well as a 6% cost of living and 3% merit pool adjustment. And then services, the anticipated rise in health care, as I mentioned, that was reflected in that 45%. All right. Just looking at a quick snapshot of the capitals, pavers and paving. Again, that's a section of the Green Bay Trail. And we got a lot of positive feedback this last year for users of the trail. They're really excited to see that wrap up, and we were able to finish off the edges of the trail, the running path as well this year, which a lot of positive feedback. We're going to continue with that in 2026 if we can. Equipment replacement, unit number 12 is slated to be replaced. That's our refuse truck, and then the addition of a mobile pressure washing rig, which is something to take out into the field to try and keep our facilities looking as clean as possible. And then, of course, furnace replacement, and then fixtures and furniture, and that's park benches, waste receptacles. So, and that just about wraps that. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Commissioner Seaman.
Hey, this, you and your team, when we look at the comprehensive master plan, we get pretty high favorability ratings. And your maintenance team is a big part of that. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners?
Okay.
Yes?
Well, after, I guess, I have because we're moving into the miscellaneous funds.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that I have a comment about the overall general funds, which
Okay.
kind of.
So this isn't for Greg, this is more for Jim?
Right.
Okay.
more General about the.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nicely explained, very thorough. Thank you.
Right, next, we're going to do a brief overview of the major capital projects. Kosta, do you want to talk about that? Okay, thank you.
Can I make my comment now?
Yeah. Would you mind,
Hold on
Kosta?
for 1 second. I look at these documents too much. And we've already got some clarity maybe on some of the numbers, but I would ask that we all look at page 4 in this presentation. Our budget is for the general fund to have 1.898315 of ending reserves, of which about 1748334 is restricted. Or, I'm sorry, either the minimum required or restricted. So we are really close on no excess reserves. And if you look at just in 2022, we had about $2.8 million of excess reserves in this fund. And we're down to, now again, we're going to make some adjustments because we've heard some things on insurance and perhaps all the healthcare payments, but we are really close. We have very limited excess reserves. That in and of itself isn't wonderful, but there are a lot of capitals that get run through this fund, as we see. And in the long-term capital plan, there's about $1 million of capitals in combined, 27, 28, 29, 30. So we have $1 million budgeted for capitals. But if we keep running this fund at effectively after allocations, break even, we don't have the money to pay for those capitals. So again, this is new to this fund. We've had obviously an increase in expenses. It's hard to increase the revenues in this fund because it's only tax-based. So I've talked to Shannon about it. We had a wonderful pre-board meeting. I called you twice today. I apologize. I would just ask that we as a board, I can't do it as one board member. I would just ask that we give direction to Shannon and staff to refine this, find some efficiencies, we're too close to we have too little excess reserve in this fund. So as it stands right now, I would be uncomfortable saying, let's go forward. We have to find some efficiencies on the revenue and expense dials for this fund. I don't know if anybody else has got comments.
We're just writing.
Commissioner Kodo?
Well, David and I discussed this today, and that's largely because our reserves, our required reserves, are a function of operating expenses.
Right.
So 25% of operating expenses drives your minimum reserve number. As your operating expenses go up, those include your salaries and wages, which includes, right now, a higher than expected healthcare number. But as your operating expenses go up, it drives your minimum reserve number higher also. And as David said, your your tax levy is CPI driven. If anything in there goes up higher than CPI, you're squeezing yourself. So you can see today, we just learned healthcare expenses are gonna be 9-ish, 9.27%. That's higher than CPI. So that's slightly outpacing. It's not 100% of the revenues, but it's eating in to the reserve number. That's all. I hope that gives a good example.
Thank you, Commissioner Kodo.
Do we want to give direction? Does anybody else have, because this is.
Yeah, I wanted to see if
Okay.
anyone else wanted to speak.
I can speak.
I'm looking at you.
Jim, just one question to baseline. Do we know the levy increase percentage at this point?
425 into 26,
Yes,
3.1%.
3.1. I've seen some other districts at 2.9. Is that the cap, or is 3.1 the cap?
Oh, CPI in September was 3.1, so that's what we,
The CPI applied to this year's tax levy is 2.9%.
Okay.
But that's not the limit of how much you're allowed to increase, because you also get to apply that rate to all your new construction for free. So you could increase your total amount that you collect by greater than the CPI because of things you get to collect without increasing the rate against your existing residents. So CPI is 2.9.
Okay,
That's what the Department of Revenue has said.
okay. So is that the number that we should see in our numbers rolling forward? I'm just thinking, like, that's a good number, you know, to have in mind, whether it's 2.9 or something else, when we're thinking about what's the growth in taxes that we're able to levy, and then benchmarking that against what's the growth in other expenses.
So the piece that Adam identified is important, the new construction piece, because the levy against new construction is higher. So it's gonna be 2.9 at the bottom, at the absolute minimum, if you just wanna go with base CPI. But you can add in, there's a maximum, there's a calculation, your debt service extension base. You can add in a little bit more for new construction, because you can levy new construction higher.
So do we have those forecasts, or are we assuming 2.9?
I don't think we know those numbers yet.
Cook County still hasn't finished last year's valuation.
No, I know, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay, well, I just think it's important to get our arms around those numbers
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the revenue side.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I agree with David that it's important to get our arms around things a little bit more tightly on the cost side. You know, I certainly, in the meetings that I had, identified some opportunities. You know, specifically looking at legal expenses is one, because that's very high. I think it's good that we had some good news on healthcare, that it's not 20%, but it's still over 9%, which is a lot. And you know, we look at salaries and wages, and, I mean, it's a big number, and it's a big increase. So I think considering that, you know, more carefully is probably in order to be putting ourselves in a position for better sustainability for our reserves in these funds.
Commissioner Root?
I first met with Commissioner Seaman back in 2021 when you were looking at these numbers very carefully. And then he provided tutoring services for me in 22 and 23. I certainly support you on your comments here, and I want to applaud Commissioner Rapp for raising the 6% and then the 3%. We're not seeing that with other districts, and so I would ask our executive director and staff to go back and carefully consider those numbers as a way of bringing us more in line with where I think Commissioner Seaman recommends. So, thank you.
So at this time, do we adopt a motion to direct staff to go back, or how do we do that?
I don't think you need to have a motion.
Okay.
I mean, I think that there's opportunities to come back with more options
Yeah.
for looking at, of course, more accurate numbers now that we're starting to get some of those in to make sure that those are accurate. As I mentioned to Commissioner Seaman earlier today, that there were also some things that we've also been looking at, because we know that that 4th of July loses, I wouldn't say loses, but there's an expense to the community of about $100,000
Right.
for that one event. And that's a big number. So how do we look at that? How do we how are we able to support that better? And what other opportunities do we have on those types of activities? Whether that's looking more at sponsorships, or do we look for additional assistance in other areas for those types of things? It's not looking, of course, at, we've already, the board has already approved the fee schedule for 2026, so that's something that is already set in place for right now. So that's not something that we would particularly look at without additional board direction on that side of things. But when it comes to other ideas as far as savings and different options, we can absolutely look at that and bring that forward for the next budget meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Cota?
I'm boldly going to say, please take a second look at fees, because I think that as enrollment numbers come in and we know what our competitors are charging, and if we're losing or gaining participants as a function of our fee structure, if we have room, we might want to consider that. That's the only half of the organization where we have some flexibility. Now, there's a competitive environment against which we have to attract our participants, so we don't have unlimited room. But now that we have good healthcare data, we probably also have good enrollment data. So my question is, please also consider the revenue side of the other half of the organization, the enterprise funds, because they may be in a position to increase fees.
I would like to take official board direction on that, since the board has already approved the fee schedule for
That's
2026.
reasonable. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable, because I was asking you to go back on something
Yeah,
that
that
we
is.
resolved.
Yeah.
All right, Juna, may I have a motion to instruct staff to look at whether or not there should be additional changes to the fee schedule for 2026?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Can we do a
Roll call.
roll call?
There's one other discussion on it.
Or does
Any-
anyone want to discuss that?
Elisa?
Talk.
One brief question or statement is that the winter brochure is going to the printer, which includes January, February, March programs already set. So if any potential changes do happen, it would be programs effective April on.
That's okay. It's still 3/4 of the year, or 2/3 of the year.
Listen, I'm convinced. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm taking Corley's 3 minutes. I'm convinced in every meeting I've had. You've been in one, Fields, Costa, Shannon. We've got really good people. Okay, we've got really good people. Kate, marketing, fantastic. We deliver great services. And the reality is, the cost has gone up. As Toby was saying, not just for the people that we employ, be it full-time or part-time, but all the services, right? We have to make hard decisions. I wish everything were free. Some people are getting elected on that. But that's not reality. So we have to take a look at these revenue and expense dials, and we've got to rebalance them. I've never had this discussion in 20, 21, 22. I wasn't here for 23 budget. I've never had these type of discussions because we've always had really good revenue relative to expenses. But we're in a post-COVID world, and we provide really good services. We got to look at these dials. We got to look at them and reset it so that at this time next year, we're like, all right, pretty easy. So thank you for your understanding.
So what we're hearing is we'll go forward with the brochure reflecting the winter agreed-upon fees, but we would like to go back and look at the fees in April. That would be instituted in April.
If that's the board's direction.
I
Well-
mean, the practicality of changing
Right.
winter stuff
Right.
is difficult,
Right.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
say the least.
Okay.
Most likely won't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so do we revise the motion then to say that?
Well, I think if we just ask them to look at it, we know
Yeah.
that we've got a constraint that
Right.
they won't look at it, and we'll look at it when it's possible, and
In April.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
any other discussion on this?
Just to clarify, it has to be, I'm not clear.
I took all your time.
I'm not clearing it, David.
You can have mine.
Okay, I took Jeff's too. I took.
No, but they would have to look now at April.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not that we come back and look at it later.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've already, we've already approved these fees, and now we're kind of going back on it, and, my preference is always to have these things ahead of time to think about and not, like suddenly make a decision on the fly. But
Right.
the April fees and moving on, they would have to start now. Yeah,
The first draft of the spring brochure is due in a month.
yeah.
Perfect.
Listen, then, here's the thing. This is serious. I'm sorry, I'm taking someone else. Listen, we have a printed brochure, great. Well, people love it. Should we send it out? I don't know. We had we had available reserves in this fund of, at the end of '22, of $2.8 million, excess. This budget has about 200,000. So we have gone through $2.6 million of excess reserves in the general fund in just a few short years. That's in part because what Christina said, that our operating expenses have increased, therefore required minimum reserve. So, if the brochure goes out 2 weeks too late, so be it. We have to look at this. It's a tough discussion. I apologize, but the way this stands right now, and the way, in some ways, our rec budget went, we got to look at everything. And it's a reset year. And you know what? We've got great staff, and we deserve to be paid for the level of service that we provide to this community. So, that's it. No more time.
Could I just ask one more thing? Yeah, sorry. What is in this current budget, I'm not seeing anything that's like right now going over or underfunded or, what's,
So where does it come from?
well, no, I'm just saying like what is the
Well-
short-term emergency?
If you budget a ending reserve that is about $150,000 above required or restricted. That means we only have $150,000 of wiggle room. But we also have $1 million of capitals that we have forecasted to spend. So we need to actually have surpluses in this account to pay for capitals. We've never been this low in the last 5 or 6 years on the cushion between required and restricted reserves versus actual reserves. As I said, at the end of 2022, we had $2.8 million of excess reserves in this general account. We are now budgeting for only $200,000. That's going to go up because of some of the savings. That's really narrow. That's really thin. That does not give us any margin really for error. Now, we tend to budget very conservatively, so we need to bring these dials more in line with one another so that we have a substantial cushion, and we also need to go back to making an operating profit so that we can pay for capitals without, because we have a limited excess reserve now. So it's changed. It's post-COVID stuff. We see it everywhere, and it's just hit us. Part of it is, listen, the feedback we got from the comprehensive master plan, that we need certain people to do certain things. But we can't provide it for free. We just can't do it. Because we don't have it. We don't have the margin anymore to do that.
Yeah. What if we propose that it was a mid-year, let the things that are kind of being printed and cooked and probably out there somewhere on a website already, and then starting now, we evaluate a mid-year fee increase, and then that would get us in good shape for next year and carrying forward.
And what I would clarify too, that any fee increases or fee changes in the fee schedule are not going to impact the general fund.
Right. That's a rec issue.
Right.
That's a rec issue.
That's one part of the equation. The part of this equation, and you can have transfers into the general fund from the rec funds if they're successful also, because the enterprise funds do not receive tax dollars. So if they do really well, they can transfer in the way we used to transfer from tennis and ice into golf to subsidize golf when golf didn't make any money. But the philosophy that you want in your recreation funds is you want reserves that are enough money to run at a slight profit, and the amount of reserves should be equal to some percentage of annual depreciation. So that when you have to go do a roof, you've got enough accumulated in reserves to cover the roof.
The reserve in recreation, I believe, is
You're
fairly
much-
significant.
Yeah.
It's substantial.
Yeah.
It is.
And you can do transfers, but the corporate fund, the general fund, which receives the tax revenues, you can't change that revenue dial on taxes. You can levy at the maximum, which is still a very modest number and still is less than the amount that we're seeing increases in the salaries and wages component. So, although David and I have different philosophies, we have similar anxiety about narrow operating margins, narrow reserve levels. So I would say my motion is fine with looking at it in April through the end of the year, because we'll capture fall, winter sports, fall ice, October, November, December ice for next year. So I would say leave the brochure that's cooked, ready, and then look hard at the April stuff, because we do need to be accumulating reserves that reflect depreciation so that we can make transfers into this fund to fund the capital expenses that aren't attached to a enterprise fund.
So
Scott?
transferring from the other funds, from the rec fund and from ICE fund
Yeah.
and from tennis and
Yeah.
all of those funds into the general
Corporate to
fund?
cover- Yeah, into general to cover the capitals. It's not my favorite thing to do, but we can't, we're a price taker on the insurance. to a certain degree. We're not driving insurance. I mean, national insurance costs are up 20%, so we've got a more favorable treatment from our broker than a lot of private entities are getting right now, so.
We have reserves to pay for capitals and for events like COVID, unusual operating. We don't have reserves to dip into to fund operating losses during what I would consider to be normal operating environments. That's a terrible model if we do that. We need to be really disciplined on using our reserves for, again, capitals, both operating and, as we have, rec is so well reserved, we have $1 million, whatever, 5 for the field. Great. But we can't use it to fund regular operating environment losses. We can't do it because the way we budget, we don't zero base budget. We just budget off of last year. And that's a recipe for a very challenging decisions to be made in 3 to 4 years where we're,
That's exactly, you know, I'm taking a long view, and I totally agree that the fees need to pay the costs of the programs. All I'm saying is that we don't need to delay any brochure by 2 months or anything like that. There's no emergency where something's gonna not get paid for.
Fair.
That's all. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Rapp.
Just a question, we do not need a motion for looking at the cost side, correct? Or would you like a motion? for
No,
insurance
I don't
selection?
need it, I don't need a
Because we
motion.
had already approved.
Yeah, I don't need a motion for that. It would, and the motion has already been made in regards to relooking at the already approved fee schedule. And that I would appreciate direction on because it's something the board's already approved.
And you also have direction specific to the general fund to just look at the dials. We already
Yes.
know there's going to be some changes.
Yes.
Because of what we've learned tonight.
Yes, I don't need a motion.
Yeah, okay.
All right, can we do a voice call vote, please?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Okay.
Excuse me.
For the
No
revenue
problem.
changes.
Yeah, what are we voting on?
We're voting on the motion to relook at fees,
Fees.
starting in April.
Yes. Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Corley,
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Moving on with budget presentation, talking about PSW capitals. We've already went through the LRP. A lot of this was already baked into the LRP, so this is kind of get a little bit of a rehash. As the comments are shown out here, there's 3, once again, capitals that are budgeted for 2026 are not only shown in the major capitals where they're appropriate, but then also in the actual operating funds that are gonna come out of, or in this case, the operating organizations. So just know that, kind of going into that as a cursory statement. As we look forward to the budget for Elder Centennial, that was the budget that was decided upon earlier in the project. And as we did last year, we budgeted for the next 3 years of what we were anticipating to close out through construction. Now that that process has been delayed, we have a firm with us tonight that is bringing forward a proposal as well. This is the number that is a carryover number. This does not reflect current estimates or which are going to be now updated estimates. Please note this is the balance remaining from the original budget. So I know you'll see that in the next page, there's a line under there I want to kind of just make a note on. That is the full amount which we have budgeted to carry the project through to completion. But once again, these are based on previous cost estimates and previous plans that have not been updated to date. So just kind of note that. As well as the other thing you'll see is the $3 million donation that was included. That donation agreement is still out there, so we have to recognize it somewhere. So that's why it's included in here. So that's just to kind of note that. As we look at the fund overview, We'll look at the proposed budget right now for the beginning reserves for the proposed budget for 2026, a little over $3.7 million. Interest and income and donations is the $3 million we just kind of note there. Operating expenses, of course, there are none because this is for the capitals. The NOI before capitals, once again, is that carryover the $3 million, and then the capital expenses is $16,068,815. Once again, the majority of that, $15,800 and change, is earmarked for Elder Centennial. We know well that the chances of actually coming to fruition on a plan and actually completing that plan in 2026 with the allotted money is slim to none. So that is the carryover placeholder as we discussed before. So once again, when you look at that, minus our proposed budget for the beginning reserves, you'll see the total expenses minus the proposed work. You'll see a net income of negative $13,068,815 with a negative ending reserves of $9.3 million. So just kind of note that. I didn't want to go through all the variances once again because this is projected from 25. We went through the year-end estimates through the LRP, so I just wanted to kind of highlight on those facts. The one thing I did want to bring to your attention is the asterisk noted below. It says budget based on 2026 construction cost. Please note that is a little inaccurate because those are on the budget assumptions, not the actual construction cost. Those have not been updated to date. So I just want to kind of clarify that, put that on the record, if you will, that it's not based on the 26 construction costs. Those are still pending. We haven't received those with our future development of that project. So unless there's any other questions for the 3700 fund, I'll give it back to Jim now to start into the 3100 fund.
How do we account for a negative reserve?
That, Jim,
I've never seen that before. How do we, because we have positive reserves. I could just see from a monthly reporting standpoint, if we actually put through this budget with a negative 9.3 million, how do we account for that?
That's the low probability of Elder Centennial being completed, number one.
But it's
And
just,
number two.
it distorts everything.
I understand. And number two, in the event that Elder Centennial does achieve lightning speed through the permitting process, then that would be
Have we ever budgeted a negative reserve in this capital projects fund before? I guess the 25 budget was.
Last year we did when we put the entire project cost up front into the project as best budgeting practices. That's what we were given direction on, knowing that we were going to incrementally chew away at so much of that budget each year, not achieving the full amount in any given year until the end of the project is concluded.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the 3700 capitals? All right. Jim, I'll kick it back to you for the Special Recreation 3100 Fund.
Thanks, Costa.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Costa.
We balance it out.
Moving on to the non-operating funds. The first is going to be the Special Recreation Fund. This is the fund where we work with NSSRA on people with special needs to use our facilities. We estimated a 7.8% increase. The numbers we received just yesterday came in slightly below that number. The difference is about $12,692 lower than what we had originally budgeted. So we will adjust that for the next presentation. Again, this includes membership contributions and inclusion costs. You're going to see that in the operating expenses here. We had originally budgeted $251,448 for those. Again, that number comes down now to about $238,756. So that will come down, and the tax levy for this fund will come down same amount. So that $12,692 will be levied elsewhere. We do show a capital expense of $100,000 for an ADA transition plan. We had originally budgeted $200,000 in 2025 for capital projects associated with Elder Centennial work. That didn't get done, but we did levy for it. Since that money was levied and collected in 2025, we were going to spend that in 2026. Are there any questions related to the Special Recreation Fund?
Commissioner Rapp?
I just wanted to confirm publicly that the $100,000 for the ADA transition plan is an accreditation requirement.
An ADA transition plan is a requirement for accreditation, but it's also best practices. The one that we have is over 10 years old, so it definitely needs a refresh and some dusting off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was personally pretty excited for this expenditure so that we have a current and fresh plan in line with our accreditation. So I think it's great that we're able to use some of the money that's locked in this fund to do it, and hopefully we'll get a lot of value out of it.
Agreed.
Seeing no other questions or comments, I'm going to move on to the next fund, which is workers' compensation. This number is provided to us from PDERMA. We've not received the final number yet. We've estimated $69,000 for 2026. When we get the final numbers, we will plug that in and provide the adjusted numbers to the board. So we tend to levy exactly what we need for the expense, knowing that the ending reserves are going to be well above our operating expense per Park District policy. So if there's any questions regarding the workers' compensation fund, this one's pretty straightforward. Okay.
Anyone else?
Moving
No?
on. IMRF and FICA. This is pension and Social Security. We have budgeted, and we'll get to this in a minute, the IMRF rate for 2026 will be 9.65%, slightly higher than the 2025 number, which is a little over 8%. The FICA budget is a federal number, 7.65% of salaries for the entire district. We have budgeted currently $809,797. This is based on the 6% COLA and 3% merit pool, plus the vacant positions are budgeted for the full year. We know we will not hire these positions as of January 1. So we are expecting this to be slightly below the number we have for 2025 based on the vacancies that we have in the budget. And again, the ending reserves are still well above the $202,000 we would need for 25% as a Park District policy.
Okay.
And again, this number will come down based on what the board decides to do with the cost of living adjustment and merit pool that we proposed up to this point. All right, moving on to the next fund.
Could we ask a question?
Oh, of course.
On the IMRF fund, David?
I just, the IM, just this, for curiosity's sakes, the IMRF employer rate for 2026 will be 9.65%. So the agency contributes 9.65% of eligible staff
Full-time staff, yes.
to the IMRF pension.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Fund 3,400 is the audit fund. In 2026, well, for the 2025 audit in 2026, we have built in a $2,650 increase. This is based on the proposal we received from the auditing firm Sikich. It's a slight increase over the $32,000 that was budgeted in 2025 from our previous auditors. So we plan to levy the same amount that we expect to pay for the audit next year. Note, we will be meeting with the auditors next week to talk about engagement letters and the process for moving forward on the 2025 audit in 2026. Are there any questions?
I want to make a comment directed toward Commissioner Seaman's concern about reserves. Several of these special funds seem to have actual reserves that are multiples of the fund balance.
Right.
We can under levy for those and add more into the corporate fund to increase our flexibility.
Right.
Just as a-
Can we,
It's a practice.
I just had that conversation. Can we do that?
If we can spend down fund balance.
Correct.
Under levying for those.
Yep.
And we should have capacity in the corporate fund, because the corporate fund rate, which once upon a time was limited to 10 cents, can now go up to 35 cents. And I can't imagine we're at 35 cents yet.
I don't know what that means. but-
So for every $100 that your house is worth, you pay 35 cents. You can pay up to 35 cents towards park purposes. And so I don't know what our effective rate for the corporate tax is right now, but I have to imagine that if we take away from FICA and IMRF and liability, because we have multiples of the fund balance requirements, we can put that tax capacity into corporate and use that to build reserves.
The only fund that we're not flexible with is NSSRA.
And that doesn't affect the other ones, because it's
Yeah.
outside the tax cap.
Yeah.
And again, it's not taking money out of these funds. It is levying less for these funds because they're already over-reserved, well over-reserved. And you're saying that,
We can make a plan to levy for less than our annual expenses.
Right.
And spend down from the reserves in that fund.
right,
And use that taxing capacity for the corporate fund.
Right.
Instead.
Just not special recreation.
Right. Interesting.
Right.
special recreation is its own
Is its own.
separate.
Outside the tax cap, so it's
Yeah.
independent.
Yep. Thank you.
Just a question. Is that something that we need a motion to ask staff to do, or is that something that to
I think that's direction.
prepare to lay out how that could look?
It can be part of the tax levy ordinance that is presented to you.
Okay.
You probably want to wait and see what the IMR, what the Perderma finals are.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
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 I just know that for myself, I will need to see that laid out in black and white, with numbers, proposed, revised.
I mean, just for example, I'm looking at the workers' comp fund, and the ending reserves are projected to be $80,000, and the fund balance policies to reserve a little over 17.
Yeah.
You could reduce the levy to less than the annual cost and move that tax capacity into the corporate fund.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And hope
Yes.
we don't have an issue.
Well, I mean, workers' comp is paid for by insurance. So,
Okay, if there are no further questions or comments on the audit fund, I'll continue forward.
Thank you, Adam. Interesting.
Fund 3500 is liability insurance fund. Again, the costs that we put in here are estimated as Perderma has yet to give us final numbers. Oh, too far. There we go. Okay. So beginning reserves, $132,000. We've projected a tax levy revenue of $195,000, and we've estimated our operating expenses in this fund to be $193,288. This includes property insurance, general liability insurance, pollution insurance, and a couple of other ones, cyber insurance. We're projecting a very slight net operating income before capitals. There are no capitals, actually. Total expenses, $193,288 is what we've projected, and we have ending reserves here of $134,496, which again is well above what we're required to maintain. And again, we should be getting final numbers from Perderma either later this week or sometime next week. Are there any questions?
Any soft indication from Perderma?
Sorry?
Any indication, soft, any band?
We're pretty close. We're pretty close on they gave us estimates a while ago.
Okay.
And so this is reasonably close. I don't expect this to vary much up or down.
So that 193,288 is an informed number from a discussion with Perdermont?
Yes,
Preliminary, got
that
it.
is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then debt service. This is based on previous bond issuances. These numbers are hard and fast. This is very predictable. So we've allocated what we expect to spend out of this fund in 2026. And again, our ending reserves are above the restricted amount we're required to maintain. Any questions on the debt service fund? Okay, that finishes the presentation for this evening.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Costa.
Thanks, Elisa. All right, at this time, we'll move on to unfinished business. And we'll start with the Elder Lane and Centennial Park Beach Project update from Mr. Costa.
President Gibson, thank you. Currently, just wanted to, we'll give the update here. As it's outlined in the memorandum that's included in the packet here for this evening. Staff are currently working with the village to conclude the review of the pier at Elder. We are waiting to finalize that scope of work with the village of Winnetka. Once we have that finalized, we're going to be looking to go out to proposals, get those in, confirm with the village staff on those, and then get that work executed so we can get the pier reopened upon a good review of that pier, those findings of those reports. So that's one item that's outstanding as an update. The other item was the special use permit for the Centennial Dog Beach fencing. That permit was submitted earlier this week. That permit is going to be updated or not updated, but uploaded to the Park District website. That'll be online before the weekend. So we're excited to get that in and then keep engaging with the next steps. Staff has continued to reach out to all the different governing bodies, Cook County, the IDNR, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and so forth, to check in on progress of those applications that are still out for, or not applications, excuse me, but the permits that are still outstanding for their review, as well as Cook County's review of our project. Not that it's a permit, but we're asking for their review to make sure it meets those requirements. So I wanted to update on that as well. The direction for special use for the consideration of RFQ, you're going to be hearing about that here shortly under new business item number 6.1. We'll bring that to the board's attention for further review. And the last item, as it's been requested by the park board for staff to include the current expenses for Elder Centennial to date. Our tracking year-to-date spent in total combination is $118,786.05 for 2025. And then the total project cost is $2,300,000 and change that we spent thus far in the project. Now that includes all our workshops, property exchange discussions, breakwater project itself, stormwater dog park, permit fees, fundraising, as well as FOIA and litigation related to that project. So just wanted to give that update. If there's any questions that I can answer, otherwise that's the update for item 5.1.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right. We'll now move on to section 5.2 of the agenda for a policy manual update. Ms. Edie Nazal?
Okay, so this item is an update to policy 4.16. This was tabled at the last regular meeting in September. So what we went back and looked at, and this was something that I requested to be tabled to be able to do more research on the policy to make sure that it was current, it met what we were doing with our insurance provider, with Paderma, to look at the intent of the policy and make sure that matched with what was current. After reviewing that with Paderma and with council and doing a deep dive into our insurance policies to make sure the coverage was correct and we were allocating those things appropriately in the policy as well. This is what we came up with to look at those insurance coverage requirements, and also looked at the policy samples that IAPD have as well in regards to these types of issues, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Commissioners, any questions? No? All right, very good. In that case, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-10-23-01, adopting updates and acknowledging review of provided sections of the board policy
So moved.
manual?
So moved.
Second.
Does no discussion? All right, let's go to a roll call vote, please. Barbara?
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo,
Yes.
Commissioner Corley,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
The resolution passes.
At this time, we're going to move on to new business, and we are going to talk about a RFQ with GZA Engineering. And Costa, you'll start with this?
Yes. Thank you again. As mentioned previously, under the item 5.1, under unfinished business, staff has continued with the due diligence as requested by the Park Board to secure proposals and ultimately a recommendation for the board to consider of a coastal consultant to continue progress on the Elder Centennial Project. That process started back September 11th. RFQ went live to the public. That closed on September 26th, which we had one responder for our RFQ. GZA, Geo Environmental and Company, provided a proposal out of Oak Brook, Illinois, for our submittal. Since that time, staff had been able to conduct an interview with the proposed project team, Dan Briotti, who's with us this evening, along with some of his other project members that would be, or project team members. At that time, staff completed an evaluation based on criteria that was included with the RFQ. Post that, staff also reached out to references, including the Kenilworth project, reached out to Patrick Benderman. He is now over at Northfield, City of Lake Forest, as well as Milwaukee County Department for some projects that GZA conducted with those different firms. We asked that Dan comes here this evening to be available for a question and answer session with the board. We know how this project is a very a tough project, and it's been an ongoing project for the community, and we want to make sure that the board is comfortable with the proposal. So we asked Dan here this evening to participate in a question and answer session for the board to help digest the proposal itself, as well as any questions that they might have in regards to the firm and their capabilities. I'd just like to note that the proposal that was included in the project, that included the project scope as identified for this go-around, included a total cost of $393,922. Now, once again, the scope of work was based on picking up the project where it was left off to date, include the GZA staff's time to completely review the project in order for them to be able to step in as the design engineer and the lead engineer for the project, or complete their analysis of the project, and then to take that project through the permitting all the way through construction documents ready for bidding and including the bidding phase. So that's the scope of work that's included in the proposal. There are some small allowances included. There are some assumptions as well, since GZA has not reviewed the documents that have been completed to date. There's assumption that the construction documents are at 100%, as well as that the stormwater documents are approximately at 50%. Depend on their review, and if there's additional time needed for those services, that cost can change either up or down. The other thing I'd like to note is the cost for the services. Have noted the design work to be included, as well as enough time to go through the permitting process. Village of Winnetka, Army Corps, IDNR, and so forth, like I said, all the way up to and through bidding. So at this time, I'd like to allow Dan to come up, introduce Dan Riotti from GZA, Geo-Environmental Ltd., and have the board be able to answer or ask any questions of Dan for the proposal that was sent to you. Dan, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, first of all, Shannon and Costa for the invite to be here tonight. As always, good to be back here. I wanted to start by saying, we think, yes, it's a complex project. It's pretty unique and ambitious goal to merge the land-based with the water-based components and create such a nice park. The Park District staff is really doing a great job, on the website, keeping pretty much the public up to date what's happening. Of course, we couldn't really review all the work in detail, what was really done to date, so we can give you an even more accurate proposal in terms of the scope. We wanted to be flexible. That means it's a time and materials proposal. So we wanted to be fully transparent on that. If we end up spending less, we only bill if you hire us based on, what we spend on the project, and not more than that. In this particular case, we understand it's a risky business on both sides, both for you as the client and for us. So we wanted to really be, like I said, honest and transparent fully with the time and materials proposal based on our standard hourly rates. We have a pretty good idea what was completed to date, but we haven't seen the work. Now, by the practice, engineering law, in any state in U.S., you need to understand that if we stamp the plans, not only the firm and also the engineer record that really will stamp the plans, it's a big responsibility. That means all the work was performed, our immediate supervision and the applicable standards of care, and that means, we really have to cover our bases, not only for us, but also for you, to make sure that in the construction phase, nothing goes wrong. So with that being said, I think the message, honestly, is I'm a pragmatic guy. I've done a lot of work on the Lake Michigan shoreline, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we do really need a full check on everything, and we're not going to propose anything that was not done already, but we have to, like I said, independently check and do our own analysis. Our own analysis in this case is at the minimum what we do really well in-house. We have a lot of computer models available, but we don't want to go the full extent of all kinds of models. But at the minimum, we want to transform the waves, get the wave loadings, get the wave overtopping rates, and obviously do the marine structural on the vertical walls and also the breakwaters that are being proposed. So that's, pretty much the scope. And obviously, as Costa said and summarized really well, we want to take the construction plans, if you hire us, to construction bidding and obviously assist with, building the project. We just had a great experience working with the village at Kenilworth to build their project. Not sure if there's going to be any continuation of that. The master plan identified a more massive type of project and footprint. But, we have to wait and see. We have a lot of monitoring to do yet and see how the project elements perform and see if there's any potential new modifications, structural, that we need to do in the future. So I would like to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Rapp, would you like to start? I don't know. Would you?
I would rather hear the comments from
Okay.
others first on this particular
All right.
topic. I won't be as harsh as others this week with a no, but.
Would anyone else like to start?
Can I ask a question? I'm not taking Scott Corley's time.
Yes.
We've done a lot of work, as you said. You're coming in maybe at the middle or the end, I don't know. Just how does that work? How do we make it as efficient as possible for you? What are some of the challenges of taking over projects when so much work has been done? Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I can cite maybe similar examples, but, we are very confident in what we offer in-house. For this particular project, pretty much everything that we need, we have in-house, and that's a big plus. When, say, for example, for efficiency purposes, and not only that, but you want to move pretty fast, at a fast pace, because, let's face it, it's been a couple of years, and we're not at the point of, securing permits and, right now scheduling construction bids. Usually after a couple of years, you would expect that, I get it. But, for us to get up to speed here will not be that long of a time because, like I said, we have all the services we need in-house. I think it will take a little bit of time at the beginning to get up to speed, really reviewing in detail everything that was done, to date. And I'm pretty sure Costa and his staff would be pretty good at sharing everything. For us, having the access to the base plan, the electronic files, DWG is a plus. That's a cost savings to you guys. We don't have to recreate the space map. Then we need to figure out some details. I know sometimes it's small details, but say, for example, the Army Corps, not sure if you know, they will not really accept an application for the joint permit with, the IDNR and the EPA if the survey that was used, size survey, topographic, and bathymetric, is over 1 year old. And that might be the case here, so we got to do that first. So we know the hot buttons of the permit applications, but to me, that is the first thing. Can we apply for permits ASAP? Because then, you can overlap the engineering services and kind of really making progress on the plans, but the permits got to go in first. I mean, that's, in my mind, the very top priority for us. I also would like to say we had some challenges. I know Shannon asked us, it was a good question. Have you ever had the case where there's a lot of comments and, the public opposes? Sure. There's always going to be somebody that opposes a project, whether you like it or not. But I think you as a team, you're doing a great job with, all the public information, all the renderings, all the images. It's the best somebody can do. So I don't think that can be improved other than more meetings, more periodic meetings and communication sessions. And sometimes, maybe we can find an innovative way. We created a lot of websites for public information, questions and answers, and everybody can see, and we can have an interactive type of meeting, but yet to be determined. The park staff will provide decision on how to communicate with the public and what needs to be done, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, thank you.
So I think Winnetka has some unique permitting complexities, and I'm wondering about your familiarity with those permitting complexities and how you see yourself working through them.
Yeah, we saw, I can speak on behalf of my experience. I saw just a gradual buildup every year in terms of what's being proposed. And more recently, we did a compilation of applicable and similar laws, special use permit and, steep slope ordinances and all the good stuff that happens, not only on the shoreline, but also on the Lake Michigan bluffs.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about it, they go hand in hand. So we had to do a study of all the regulations, City of Lake Forest, Highland Park, Village of Kenilworth, and then, kind of do a parallel with what you have. So I'm very familiar with what was proposed, and I think it's in flux. Maybe some more things will be coming up, being proposed. But at least, we can play with what they have now, and I'm pretty sure we can do a good job. Again, it's coming from confidence that we can do a really great job in-house and, really following that and making sure the SUP permit is granted.
Okay. We know about the Kenilworth work. Can you talk about some other shoreline protection systems that you've installed along the lakefront here?
Yeah, lots. I've been involved with the Lake Forest Park Beach for, many years, and every year there's something to do with that. More recently, we did a very thorough, detailed evaluation of the breakwater systems. We, in the last 3 years, did the final design on the beach cell nourishments, separate projects, cell 1 and also cell 2. These are the north cells, where they lose a lot of sand.
Right.
So we did those. Obviously permitting, construction bidding, and all the good stuff that comes along with that. But then we did a very good evaluation based on aerial survey, bathymetric, and topographic of the structures themselves. So we are planning to rehabilitate the structures, the city direction. We part of the capital improvements plan where we make, obviously recommendations for what they should budget and when. And then in terms of build projects, I was the project manager for the Rosewood Park Beach in Highland Park. It's been a while that was on the contract with the Chicago District Army Corps, in terms of the bigger projects, let's say. But then we also built a lot of the smaller projects, even on the residential side. But one kind of replicates the scope of Elder Centennial, but at a much larger, smaller scope in the city of Lake Forest. It's the same type of beach cell system that we just wrapped up a few months ago. And we worked from the barge. It was a marine construction.
Okay. I have to ask a little bit of a follow-up question, because I think I missed a little bit of what you were saying. So the work that you did in terms of looking at sort of like the cells and everything, that was at Lake Forest, or where was
Yeah,
that?
Lake Forest Park
okay.
Beach, yeah.
Okay.
And, I think we still have a few projects active with the city of Lake Forest for the Park Beach, for the Lake Forest Park Beach, yeah. Yes.
So that was a consulting capacity. It wasn't actually seeing a project from start to finish. Like, this is going to be a project that you're going to, help us install on the beach. This was just a consulting project to review items, or was it actually an installation?
Yeah, it was the engineer record for,
Oh, okay.
Pretty much building the
Okay.
improvements.
I did miss something.
Oh, not a problem.
Okay.
And also, wanted to mention, not sure if this is relevant, but I was the program manager, engineer record, and lead engineer for pretty much all the big projects that happened on Lake Superior, Duluth, City of Duluth, with FEMA funds, $25 million. It was the pure definition of a resilient shoreline that you can rebuild from scratch. And it's the largest boardwalk system around the Great Lakes, which is about 7.5 miles. And our EPA boardwalk that was built was 1.5 miles long. Just wanted to give you magnitude of the projects, so you kind of get a sense that, maybe your confidence level goes up if you're looking at all these projects that I, stamped and built.
Thank you. I'm finished for now. Does anyone else? Oh, Mr. Tyson?
Might be a difficult question, but
Sure.
very high level, 30 seconds. What are your opinions on our current, what are your high-level opinions on our current design?
Well, I think it's, like I said, an ambitious plan. You want to shoot for the sky and think about, all the benefits, recreational benefits your community will get. Kenilworth was a little bit, thinking like that initially, maybe, because we came up with a big master plan and even included public access on the North Groin, for example. After a while, pretty much we said, this is the Cadillac of all the options, what we can build in a phase one. So we scaled down the project. So the goals and the realistic expectations were set by the beach committee. So the village set a beach committee that really communicated with us on a daily basis, say. And then, I thought that was really good because that set us on the good path to complete the project in a very, very efficient manner. So I don't think you have a lot being proposed, honestly. If you can afford building something like this, I think you should go for it. Look at the Lake Forest Park Beach that the city self-funded in 1987, and they built the project in 1988 grand opening. Everything was paid for with their money. Is that too ambitious of a goal? It was probably close to $11 million back then, maybe $30 million plus, in today's money. But, that's testament that if you can do it, you should, because it will be in place for a long time, and so you get long-term benefits. The community will enjoy it.
Thank you.
And it was not a tough question. If you can, do it. Why not?
Commissioner Root?
Mr. Variotti, I hope you'll tell the people that you were the coastal engineer at the 2030 plan. It is its inception, was that 2015? And so you've been with this project off and on for some time. My question to you is, are you aware that both the zoning commission and the planning commission rejected this plan as it is presented to you, mainly due to safety concerns? So my question is, as you look at this, how would GZA be able to, I'll use the word pivot, or address modifications and changes that may need to be done, because ultimately, the Village of Winnetka comes back and says, we cannot approve this plan as it is? How would you address that? And then one other question, when you started looking at this back in 2015, there was a vision. It was a vision of a united beach of Elder and Centennial. To this date, we still do not have the property in the middle, 261. And so, as part of my question, what would you advise us to do? You know, go full scale out on Elder and Centennial, or maybe just kind of pull back a bit and look and see what happens in the next several years as to whether it is possible to secure that property in the middle?
Yeah, well, obviously, the second question is the tough one. Going back to your first question, safety of the public, that's top priority for us. You know, once we stamp the plans, you know, we are responsible for the safety of the public. That's, you know, in the definition of being a professional engineer. I am going through a similar process with the city of Green Bay. There is a breakwater detached with a proposed, you know, power supported structure, and it will be publicly accessible through a cast-in-place concrete cap all the way to the offshore end. We're discussing now what is safe in terms of elevation for the public to access that breakwater at any given scenario, including a scenario where you have a high, very high design water level with some significant, you know, storm, offshore wave height. And then we're looking at that. We did a lot of computer modeling. We're making progress. And we have a final meeting coming up where we're going to pretty much, you know, present the facts, what you can get for different design scenarios, and what the city is willing to take on in terms of risk. Now, it's a good question about the safety of the public, because as I mentioned to Costa and Shannon in the interview, it seems to me, strikes me, I haven't seen all the work that was done, but, you know, from the previous permit applications, the design water level is 582 feet, okay? So let's keep that in mind. In 2020, we had monthly average water levels at 582.35. So if that's the case, you can't just design for 582. It makes logical sense. We normally design for a 50-year water level, which is 583. So with that in mind, with the 572 bottom contour at the end of the proposed publicly accessible pier, suddenly you have a problem because you have a 10-foot wave right there. So what we do is, you know, not necessarily be critical of the plan, but find a solution. That means maybe you can push the stone revetment out there, and maybe we come up with a 2-on-1 side slope, and we really armor the head. That will reduce the wave overtopping. How much flow of water, when the wave breaks, you know, on top of the breakwater, you know, comes back splashing at the people accessing, you know, the concrete cap. It can happen. A northeast wave can happen any given, you know, month, even during the summer. But again, safety of the public is really, really important to us. And that's probably partially addressing why you asked, but we have that in mind as a priority. Second question, we always like the big Cadillac option of all the options and say, let's work towards that. But from a practical standpoint, I'm a pragmatic guy. I like to see a phased approach because that gives you the biggest bang for the dollar. If this is something that you can have a phase 1 followed by a phase 2 and 3, something like that, I think I am a big fan of that. Because keep in mind that the permits are usually good for about 3 years. Implement something now when you got a portion of it, monitor, see what happens, and keep on building. That's, you know, a possibility if that's what the Park District wants to do. Hope that answers, you know, it's a long story. I'm half Italian. What can I do? I talk a lot. But, you know, I'm just saying, you know, it can be done either way.
So can I ask a question along that lines? I'm sorry to sort of break. When you talk about the phases, I know that's what was done in Kenilworth, But is it harder to do with our beach because it's a larger area to protect?
Yeah, it's more difficult to do. And keep in mind, on the downside, you would have contractor mobilization maybe twice, maybe 3 times. That really is a significant amount of money. And, we worked with various specialized contractors on many things in the last few years. For the land-based operations, I really like, and I'm not saying, they would win the job, but I personally like working with John Keno. They have such an efficient way of building projects from the land. But in this particular case, I think the existing water depths will actually preclude us from doing everything from the land. I think if, I'm thinking realistically here, I think it's going to be a combination of barge, marine barge, and land-based, so it's going to be both. And on the marine side of things, we worked closely with Michaels several times, and 2 different types of operations, but I think this project will probably need both. It's going to be a combination of both. Because once again, the existing water depths at the offshore end of the proposed structures are significant. No matter what the water levels are. Right now we are below the long-term historic average, but you still end up with 6-7 foot of water depth right now at the offshore end.
Commissioner Corley?
How common is it to come in, for your firm to come in on a project that's been started by somebody else and you take it over? I imagine you would prefer to start from scratch.
Well, we've done it before as a firm. As I was talking to Ross Morgan the other day, he's our national waterfront practice lead. We had several instances where we were brought in and, again, we're not really trying to take a job from anybody. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but it's a big responsibility to start over. And there's a sense of efficiency. That means if we have the electronic base map we can build pretty quick, yeah, we can do a good job. So again, we as a team are used to being in the same similar spot right now. But again, our effort is to work with the team. We do a lot of work with Christopher Burke. Oh my God, my office in Oakbrook, yeah. We've done so many projects with their team. I personally know Scott from Lakota really well. We collaborated at the beginning of the master plan for, what you have going now. And also with Spaceco, we're doing a large project in Illinois right now. So the relationship is there. We're not starting from scratch with these guys.
Gotcha.
Any other questions?
I'd like to go last, if that's possible.
Okay.
I've never asked for that before, but I would like to go last.
Okay. Can you just talk a little bit further about your experience presenting before the various local boards? Are you usually the front person from an engineering standpoint? Are you usually speaking, or is staff usually speaking from the agency? How do you like to work that?
So, from a regulatory standpoint, I have an excellent working relationship with the Army Corps of Chicago, Soren and Kathy. We go back in time. I mean, so many projects we've done together. So I think that helps. With the IDNR Office of Water Resources, I go back in time to, when Danny Inier was the big chief of that section. Then Jim Casey was like a young pup, coming on the job, and then now he retired, kind of, and now Eric Otto is the new guy that it was probably his first couple of days on the job, and he had a field visit with me scheduled for a project, and I saw him taking a lot of notes, and I see a lot of progress. These guys are doing a really good job, but we have a great relationship with all these folks. Now, from a public regulatory standpoint, that's taken care of. In terms of public speaking and technical and presentations, yeah, usually it's going to be at least me doing that, and I'm such a technical guy. I'm focused on plans and construction. Sometimes I kind of lose myself in that and coastal science and the numbers in my head and modeling and all that, but I'm trying to kind of really express things in a summary, and I always encourage a discussion, people to interrupt me and say, what does it mean, go back, and it's always, playing nicely in the end. We have a lot of visuals that we do prepare, so I, again, like what Scott and his team have prepared so far. I think it's really good visuals for the project for people to understand. We probably should encourage that a little bit more, but yes, we do a lot of public engagement.
Can you just talk a little bit more about how you approach the modeling? Because I will say, one of the questions that I've asked that is still unanswered is that for a given design, you have your cells, you have your swimming area, the lake level changes. How deep is the water that you're gonna swim in at the various lake levels? Is that something that you can answer with your modeling or not answer with your modeling?
Yeah, so we do a lot of modeling, and typically it's a complex hydrodynamic package. Rosewood Beach was subject to that, to the point where in average for any modeling scenario and various combinations of, offshore wave heights, storms coming in from whatever direction, and then obviously water levels, you could predict long-term average, how much sand you're losing per year, and, obviously what is the beach planform response. That means if you have a beach that goes from the top going in the water, how much of that can you change? So you're looking at one profile before the storm comes in, and then you can have a prediction of, what the new profile all the way going down to the bottom and offshore, like you said, the swimming area, what exactly that's gonna do. So we do all that. And not only that, we can do water mix and circulation. All the packages you can imagine are out there, we have, and we are doing a lot of that. Interesting enough, we do a lot more of that in Wisconsin because the regulatory folks, every time there's a project, they want this modeling to be done. It's not still a requirement in Illinois. What's typically required in Illinois, and we do it, that's the wave modeling in support of the structures and the wave overtopping. And we do the so-called basis of design because you want to really know what type of coastal risk you are willing to take on. I do a lot of these models myself. I had my fair share of modeling in my life. Well, right now we're pretty efficient at doing just wave modeling at the beginning, and then let's see what else you would like to know. Wave modeling is included in the proposal that we put together. Otherwise, we cannot get away with just saying, hey, yeah, that should work. No, we need to know for sure.
Okay. Excellent, thank you.
Sorry, still making notes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a simple yes or no. Have you ever done a submerged element
What do you mean by
to protect beaches?
Oh, like a submerged reef?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we actually have one in the works right now with the city of Lake Forest. So, yeah, we kind of did a study on that. Just waiting to see if they want to do modeling on it. But, yeah, we proposed that type of submerged reef for Cell 1.
Okay, thank you.
Which is a recent project. So they're looking at that because we want to find out. Right now, we're doing a beach monitoring on Cell 1, and we know how much sand we're losing per year. And we can forecast, what is going to be the reduction in how much we're losing per year if we're putting that submerged reef in. It will be partially closing some of the opening in between the detached breakwaters, but we would optimize the crest so the waves do feel the crest and break on it, and then we want to see what the impact of that would be on losing less sand per year.
So you have 2 breakwaters in the cell, and then you're proposing to put a reef
Yes.
in between the 2.
Yeah, imagine you keeping your arms like this
Right.
and you keep the sand stable. So this is the opening. You would put in a submerged reef right there, not full to the opening, but just a partial length.
Right.
And then the crest of that is, just sufficiently high enough for the waves when they come in, they feel the crest and they break on it instead of propagating inside. So it's a reduction of how much wave energy you get because you want to fight the wave energy right there in the opening and not on the beach itself.
Is there another beach along the shoreline of Lake Michigan, maybe even in Wisconsin, that has actually installed that reef that you know of?
Well, many years ago, I used to work at Baird, which is 100% coastal. Still is, according to my knowledge. And we had a few of those projects in the works. One of the breakwater that probably we used to monitor was installed in Indiana, but the crest was probably not high enough. So the reduction in the beach erosion rates was not that significant. And if you keep raising, pretty much the crest, then obviously at that point you wonder, well, you might as well go above the water level at that point, and, it's a done deal. That's the best reduction that you get. I'm not saying it's a lost cause.
Right.
In Canada, there's a lot of these beaches built this way. But boy, they don't have the northeast exposure, say on Lake Ontario. Right now, we have almost 300 miles of fetch distance over the open lake. So when you look at that and say, hey, my offshore wave height is 20 foot, well, it's not the same case for the other lakes because offshore wave heights will not be 20 feet. So it's on a case-by-case specific basis, but I think this idea for the City of Lake Forest, that might work.
Okay, and is the benefit to everyone that you look out and you don't see it in between the two arms, and so it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing?
Absolutely. Not only that, but it cannot be a swimming beach, right? And obviously, for navigation purposes, you want to make sure there's nobody
a
going.
boating beach.
It cannot be a boating beach,
Right.
correct.
Right. But
No
a
swimming and no boating. Just
No swimming.
Well, partially, but, you want to probably put some buoys on that area just to make sure nobody gets hurt. Because the
Okay.
top of that crest, will be submerged, but not 5-6 feet below the water level. You will be kind of within the very first 1 or 2 feet.
Interesting, okay.
Can I ask a quick question to follow up to that? So cell one at Lake Forest, if I'm not mistaken, that's basically looking for it to be water runoff and kind of like a natural collection area for bio dissipation along the ravine, right? That's the long-term projected use of that?
So cell one has a stormwater outflow on the beach, but that's an overflow. I mean, pretty much a surplus, whatever's cannot be, accommodated in the existing storm sewer system. And right now, we're looking at some options of probably, continuing that discharge to the very north end where you have a big rain garden that we can put in. So all kinds of ideas that we're working in collaboration with the city staff. And that would be ideal. You get that pipe out of the way, and then you have two separate and not conflicting, uses of the beach. And plus, you would help tremendously with the water quality as well if you have infiltration at the north end and not really an open discharge right in the middle of the cell.
Yes.
Because you never know what might be coming down from the bluff. I mean, it's groundwater for the most part, but you never know, just to be safe.
Agreed. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Coda?
I'm glad that you addressed the safety of the submerged elements. That's been something Illinois Beach State Park has been held up as an example, but I think it's a much larger scale. And I think the recreational uses we have envisioned for Elder Centennial don't make submerged or low-profile elements a good choice. I take your point that a higher wall is more protection. We have two competing demands from the Village of Winnetka: preserve views and vistas and minimally necessary. And those are very subjectively worded. So to try and work around those could be challenging. Have you watched any of the zoning board or plan commission hearings?
Yeah, partially, because, you listen a little bit and then you say, I've seen enough, or, that kind. I mean, I'm joking, but
No, I know.
it's a challenge, and I know it's controversial, and, it's a lot of things. Sometimes it's trial and error, because, first of all, it's an education of the public. It doesn't happen overnight. If you haven't had a really complex, detailed set of laws in place before, and not a lot of complex projects, obviously the public can expect, you do not really know what to expect from the public. So it's going to be a whole education component. But, for us, that pier, once again, I think we have some pretty good ideas how to even play with the proposed elevation, which is only 585. That's what you want. Just find a way, and not necessarily raising the breakwater height tremendously, but having a wide crest, because the wave, when you're looking at all the calculations in the world, the waves will break on the slope, but then it will dissipate over a large crest. So by the time you know it, by the time you get back, to the location of the pier, then maybe it's acceptable for even, say, public use at any water level. So we got to go through the analysis, but that strikes me as probably being unsafe for a particular combination of design water levels.
I have 3 other sets of questions. I'll go ahead and read them, and you respond as you wish. My first and my biggest concern is a conflict. So you may or may not know, but the Park District was sued on October 25th, 2022 by Rob Schriesheim. And it was regarding the exchange agreement. In the December 9th, 2024 Zoning Board of Appeals public comment, your work was presented on pages 148 to 152 and 174 to 176. Page 174 to 176 was a letter dated September 18th, 2023 to Christine Schriesheim, referencing a teleconference that you had with her on September 15th, 2023. This is after that lawsuit had been filed. And this is work product from GZA that was presented in opposition to our project.
Well,
And it's, I mean,
yeah.
I would just say it would have been a really easy thing to say, listen, here's work product of mine that was used in opposition. I just want to explain how I was contracted, how I was
Sure.
researched, because to
Yeah.
find that was a bad surprise. And are you still working with them?
No.
Or anyone from that?
No, so, Rob expressed some concern, and he approached us, a couple of years ago, like you said. But the intent was probably presenting some guidance, presenting some help to the village, what the zoning ordinance should look like. What is it that, they should be really watching on a steep slope ordinance? Because, we have an IDIQ contract with the city of Highland Park. This is what we do. We are in charge with that type of program. And we are reviewing projects, we're designing projects, but we applying the, so-called SUP rules, but working on the bluffs and everything else. That's the report that I kind of mentioned to you already. We had to compare what, probably communities like Lake Forest, Kenilworth, list is long, Highland Park. What do they have, and what is the minimum set of requirements, what we would recommend for the village to consider? So Rob wanted to know, can you put this in a report? And we did. That's all we did. I'm not really aware of any, conflicts or, pretty much details what he did further. Just did a report, straight and simple, and I gave it to him, and that was it. What he did with that, I'm not really aware.
I'm going to ask one question about projects, and I think I'm almost out of time, but what is the status of Ogden Dunes in Indiana? And
Well,
I understand
yeah.
there's a stop work, and then if you want to talk just generally
Yeah.
about how litigation gets resolved and who
Absolutely.
ends up paying for it.
No, thank you for asking that. I know Shannon asked the same thing. You guys are detailed, so I appreciate that. I know you checking on everything. So I was the engineer record for phase 1. So they had almost total destruction of property when the water levels were pretty high. So we put in emergency repairs, and obviously at that point we got a permit, Army Corps and Illinois DNR. So we built a significant, type of revetment footprint on top of the steel, in front of the steel sheet piling that they have. And at that point, the water was, a few feet deep, right at the toe of the steel sheet piling. You can imagine the wave overtopping was just crazy and washing away people's property. And it was almost, like I said, significant destruction of property, and to the point where you couldn't really recognize what they had anymore. So I was the engineer record responsible for doing that, construction plans and construction bidding. And that project was built. So a couple of years go by, and then, obviously the town would like us to continue with the same type of armoring. So we apply for permits. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources gave us a permit for a similar type of revetment, and then Army Corps gave us permission as well. At that point, because IDNR issued their permit, this organization, Save the Dunes, really stepped in and sued the IDNR for issuing a permit for the project. It has nothing to do with the engineer or even the town of Ogden Dunes. It was just a conflict between the Save the Dunes folks and the IDNR. At this point, what we said we should do is invite everybody, all the regulatory agencies in the field, and kind of look at the project limits and everything else, because no matter what, all the proposed work was well above the ordinary high water mark. So at that point, Army Corps even issued in writing that we should be allowed to work, and then, that's exactly what was needed for the town to proceed with the contractor bids, and we started building some of the sections, but it was a really reduced footprint, just a little bit of stone in front of the sheeting. But obviously, this is not resolved yet, but I'm told that it's going to be, and very likely in the spring, we're going to continue with the armoring down the line. So again, it's just not us or the town doing anything wrong. Save the Dunes, sued the IDNR for issuing a permit. Based on what? I don't know.
I have one final question, if everyone will indulge me, because I am over my time ever so slightly. But North Perry Town Line Marina in Ohio, where the boat launch that you designed.
I didn't design it.
You didn't design it?
No.
Were you the project
No.
manager?
No.
What was your involvement?
My involvement was I was the coastal engineer for JGR. My only involvement, simply put, was to get the permit with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and I secured that. It's not the project manager, no engineer record. I provided my deposition in court. I was dragged to do that.
Oh,
And I said the same
yeah, I
thing.
know.
I was not one of the guys in charge, simply that.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
We've
My deposition was only 4 hours. I got away easy.
We're, in some of the conversations with Zoning Board of Appeals and Plan Commission, there was a lot of discussion around who should be considered the experts. Obviously, the IDNR and the U.S. Army Corps, who are the regulators, should be considered experts in this process. How can you convince people who doubt, they believe that they regulate too loosely? And so my question is, what is your process for convincing them that, in fact, those are legitimate regulatory bodies that see the bulk of the work in the pertinent area?
Well,
what's your most persuasive argument?
Yeah, no, just so you know, we're following everything by the book. That means, the field delineation of the so-called ordinary high water mark is key. That really should tell you exactly where the public versus private rights are. So obviously, if you're above that value, then at that point, there's not a lot of questions remaining from the regulatory folks. But what we do is, not only we follow the Federal Army Corps procedure, and Soren from the Army Corps, I know he trusts me to do all these delineations and survey. We put in flags. And it's a procedure, like I said, we document in the report, which is the federal way. But once we document this, and obviously we invite these regulatory folks to actually participate on the flagging and delineation, at that point, they're going to be behind this value. And this is, based on science, based on, like I said, federal rules. And not a lot of firms do this. I've seen it myself. They will say, this permit, that was submitted maybe a mile away, use this value, let's use the same thing. No, that value changes, and it's usually good for 1 year. If you do it now, then obviously it's good for 1 year. After that, Army Corps will send you back to the field and redelineate, because the shoreline responds to different water levels. Where's that line of debris, breaking the slope, different materials, line of vegetation. So many things that come into play. But, obviously having that done, that doesn't leave a lot of questions asked from the beginning. And this is, what we would do for this project as well to begin with. Because obviously if you are above that value, you have a lot of backup and obviously credibility.
I don't think we struggle on this board with the legitimate authority or the professional engineers or the regulators. I think we're struggling to bring the public along with us in our thinking and why we've made the design choices that we've made. That's the harder burden, and I think you addressed it earlier in your comments when you said.
I wish you had the beach committee, long story short here, because every time, communication goes back and forth, I think that beach committee would streamline the process of not only advancing and having the
On the
public.
permitting side.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, but it's entirely up to you.
On the permitting side from the village.
Well, so let's say you assign a beach committee that will be in charge with, putting in a lot of time towards instructing the engineering team, obviously being in charge of the communication, making sure everything is good. The streamlined process means, sometimes, let's say we work with Costa and his team, but, sometimes it's not the same thing. If you assign this beach committee in the middle, kind of the middleman in here, I think that could be some value. Again, just one wild idea, but I'm just learning from the experience of the village of Kenilworth, how we played with the project for the last few years until we ended up building it. And also, maybe what you have is great, but again, you're saying, hey, this is my Cadillac of the option. Now, guys, what do you want to do? Can we start with the phased approach? Because, you get a lot of bang for the dollar putting something in and people start liking it. And then they go, oh yeah, let's move to the phase 2 because this one is great so far. But we like the vision and we see the visuals. People don't really know. I mean, you give them the whole plan, but until they see something being built, then, sorry,
Yeah.
you don't know about it until you see it.
Yeah, we thought we had a very good example and a successful example to show them at Lloyd. And that has, they're not convinced, let's just say, so, all right. And then I think you're producing your academic credentials and your resume also? Okay, perfect, thank you.
Well, funny thing, I told Costa that, he said, hey, give me a couple of examples, scan your diplomas. And I was laughing with Ross Morgan, our leader, and he goes, Dan, my diplomas are from 1982 and 1984. Where the hell am I going to look for those, Same thing for me. I'm like, okay, now I got to find them. I never, yeah.
You can go back to your issuing university and they'll just confirm.
No, we provided that.
Okay, good.
We found them all.
Okay.
Yay!
From 1980, so.
Mom, on that wall in my bedroom.
Russ did not have any idea where to look.
Your mother have them still?
Exactly. All right, well, does anyone else have any questions or anything else they want to cover with Mr. Variotti? No?
Are we, we received a proposal with a very large number, like a scary large number.
Right.
And I'm just wondering how we can increment that, because I feel like Dan has some good ideas. They're
Right.
different than what we've tried.
Right.
Possibly a different approach could yield some positive results. And I'm just wondering how we could stage something to test it out a little bit.
Yeah, if you want to say have something done on a no-risk basis for you and us, maybe if you decide to just give us a little bit of a fee, just to kind of see, if we get on the contract, then the information flow is freely on both sides. We were asking Costa in terms of, hey, can we take a peek at what was done so far so we can give you a good proposal? Because if we kind of take a look at the plans and all the design details, we know how to formulate our fee, the structure, and everything better. But we're not on the contract, so he couldn't legally share those details with us. And same thing for us. We're trying to cover our bases by providing allowances by task, but it's time and materials. If you decide, here's a wild idea for you. Small fee, allowing us to kind of dive deep into what was done so far. If we get on the contract, that's the non-disclosure agreement. We keep that information confidential, safe, in-house, right? And then maybe at that point we say, here's what we think a revised proposal is for all these tasks, because it will give us an idea, really darn good idea, what we have to do to bring this project home.
So it sounds like with all of this in mind, and there's been a lot of moving pieces here tonight, that maybe what we do is we just sort of table a decision for tonight, and we talk more about this, and then we come back to, you know, GZA at a later date.
I'd be in favor.
Okay. Yeah, all right. May I have a motion to table item 6.1 to the November 20th? Is it, that's our next meeting, yeah? To
Next
the
general
November
regular.
20th meeting? Yeah, that's when we should do it, right?
Yeah, that's the next regular
Okay,
meeting.
yeah, so can we have a motion to table it until that meeting, and in the meantime, we'll sort of think about this?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion?
May I just say that in listening to Mr. Variotti tonight, I think had we perhaps had the skill set of GZA back in 2022, when we started this project, we could have built some additional trust and rapport with our village regulator. I think that GZA brings, having just studied what they did and what they've done throughout the Great Lakes, they bring quite a reputation with them. The fact that he was the coastal engineer for our 2030 waterfront plan also should be somewhat persuasive to our village. And I just want to thank him for staying until 8:30 tonight to
Yes,
begin
thank you.
talking.
Hey, we are consulting engineers, what's new? Oh, yeah, we're used to it, it's all
We're
good.
used to it.
No,
Anyway.
Colleen, thank you for the vote of confidence, and Costa asked me the same thing. You know, I interviewed for the project, for the master plan, working closely with Scott. I had the pleasure of working with them. I didn't finish the project, you know, obviously I left. It was the time when Baird wanted to kind of focus on different parts of the globe and not necessarily focusing on the U.S. as a business, because, you know, let's face it, it's a business decision which I respect fully. Some other parts of the world, coastal engineering, you're probably making a lot more money, like Australia. And I know that was a heavy decision, and they downsized big time. There's only a few guys left in U.S., and I get it. But, you know, at least I started the project, and we came up with some great ideas, and the collaboration with Scott's team was great.
Thank you. Can we do a vote?
Can I ask just a quick question on the scheduling? So we do have we have 2 meetings next month, but we can't do this in the earlier meeting to get
Yeah,
it done.
that early November meeting is a
different style of
big-
meeting.
Is a big budget.
It's just got too much going
Yeah,
on?
we're rolling everything up and,
Okay.
We usually reserve the earlier meeting for budget.
Right.
And then the regular meeting for regular business.
I'm just saying if we want to move things.
Oh, sorry, we usually reserve the earlier meeting for budget, and the second meeting is our main meeting for other business.
But if we wanted to hustle, we could do, like, if we'd all, you know, if we were going to take a vote that might take 3 minutes, would it make sense to do it earlier or have the option to do it earlier?
I want the entire first
Weeks go by.
monthly meeting in November to be about the budget, because we got a really unique budget process this year. So that would be my preference.
Yeah.
Listen, Elder Centennial, super important, and I get your urgency.
I was just asking that, you know, in the
Yeah.
interest of not burning weeks, but I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my view, but I don't, others.
I agree. All right,
So there's a motion on
yep.
We have the motion, okay. Commissioner Root,
Would you reread the motion? We are tabling until the regular November board meeting, is that
Yes.
correct?
that. November 20th.
Okay, I'll vote yes on that.
Commissioner Corley,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Is that me? Yes, yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rapp.
Yes.
And Commissioner Gibson.
Yes, thank you.
Can I just give a quick thank you to staff for, engaging through the RFQ process again? Can I just give a quick shout out to staff for engaging in this process again? particularly Costa, going through it, to bring some fresh ideas. It's just, thank you, because I know it was time consuming and appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's see. We are now moving on to Section 6.2 of the agenda, and we are going to discuss a text amendment to Ordinance 504 relating to e-scooters and e-bikes. And this is Shannon.
Sort of. So after conversations about the village's additions to their ordinances in regards to e-scooters and e-bikes, and the conversations that the board has had in regards to these items, we wanted to make sure that our ordinance, which is Ordinance 504, which is in regards to park conduct, we have updates to that to make sure that we are consistent with our messaging, consistent with what the state laws are in regards to these particular items, as well as some updates in regards to regular bicycles and scooters, not just the e-bikes and e-scooters. So as we went through that, and Adam may want to opine on some of these items too, that we looked at amendments in some of the different sections of the ordinance. In the definitions section, we added definitions to bicycle, scooter, low-speed electric bicycle, and electric scooter based on some of the items in state law, as well as how those are defined there. We amended Section 2.35A in regards to what was previously roller skates, skateboards, and similar devices, to add bicycles and scooters to that 2.35A, and amending Section 3.03 driving areas to regulate the low-speed electric bicycles and electric scooters in where those are basically, unless there's a sign allowing it, they are prohibited for use in park areas. So this is consistent with state law in regards to e-scooters, which is the same. It's prohibited unless you say it's allowed. And we went that route also with e-bikes to make sure that we are consistent in our messaging, and that's easier for the public to understand. If we go one direction, it's prohibited unless it's allowed, rather than state law, which goes the opposite direction for e-bikes. We also added some wording in regards to exceptions regarding ADA and law enforcement. And then we'll answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have questions with regard to this amended ordinance? Yes.
Thank you for getting us aligned. Thank you for making sure that we're current in our conduct ordinance on this topic and aligned with the village. I think it's good. The only thing that I would say is that as the communication is rolled out, I would love to see if there is consensus to give staff direction for the Park District to have the walk your bike kind of signs that are in the business district and at the corner of Elm and Glendale and Oak and Glendale by Skokie School, so that we can build on that, because I do not think that the Park District parking lots with kids carrying sports gear or wearing their sports gear or riding in front of entryways to buildings to get to bike racks is a good setup. I know people have been looking for the bike racks that are now out by the tennis center, but I think it would be a benefit for the community to have consistent signage and consistent expectations for this campus, as we do kind of around the schools, especially with the tennis court construction.
And we've had preliminary conversations with the police department and the village as a whole in ensuring consistency in signage, so residents see one message and one look of that, so it's the same across the village.
Not the kids will always follow it perfectly, but I think it's.
But if they do, I will give them a thank you card.
The Kona ice truck will roll up. It's a good idea.
Does anyone else have any comments? You look like you're about to say something, Commissioner Seaman.
Listen, you guys have done a lot of work on this.
Yes,
The
well,
lease.
so I'm supportive of, if we need to instruct staff to put out signage, I'm supportive of it, just,
Yep.
you know, I think you're already there, so I don't know that you need us to say anything more, just that it would be nice if it didn't just address e-bikes and e-scooters, but also bicycles, because while I think we've always had these rules in place, we just need reminders. Do you need direction from us, or are you good?
I think I'm good, and
Okay.
if there are areas specific that once we put these things in place, if there's areas specific where we find that there's an additional concern, then we can look at that and address as needed.
Okay, perfect.
I believe Commissioner Root had a
Oh, I'm
comment.
sorry.
I just wanted to say, I think you've done a fabulous job with this, and I really appreciate you moving forward, as Commissioner Rapp said, and making us consistent. And again, thank you. I've been nearly hit by an e-scooter on Centennial on 2 occasions.
Oh, no.
So, and it's not good when you have a dog and they're coming by, because dogs will attack the scooter, which makes a problem if it's a child on the scooter. So thank you.
Okay, very good. So may I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-007, approving the text amendments to ordinance 504 to clarify regulations regarding e-bikes and e-scooters and ensure consistency with applicable state and local laws?
So moved.
Who wants to
Second.
Okay, wonderful. Do we need any further discussion on this? No? All right, let's go to a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Cotto?
Yes.
Commissioner Corley?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes,
Ordinance passes.
wonderful.
I like the random order of names.
Keep you
Seriously, I'm on to that. I like that. Random, seriously.
So at this time, we are going to turn the discussion to the newly added section 6.3 to discuss what was previously under the consent agenda, 3.2, October 9, 2025 special meeting minutes.
Seeing I made this request, I'm passing out, I have 2 proposed revisions to the minutes. Hopefully I have enough copies for everybody to reflect what I believe actually happened during that meeting. So I will send this down for your review and consideration. What I wanted to make very clear was that I formally objected to being barred from a meeting, and unfortunately, the minutes did not reflect that. So hopefully, I have provided clarification.
Okay.
Is that the only change?
I have, as you can see, the second paragraph is section 4. I have a suggested revision, replacement, and then the second sentence of the 3rd paragraph is section 5.
Are we resolving this tonight?
I think we probably need to table it. I would like to have some time to consider it.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone cares to have a transcript of that portion of the meeting, I'm happy to scan it and send my transcript to all commissioners. So
The meeting recording is also on YouTube and publicly available.
that a transcript does help you kind of really quickly see what was said. And I'm happy to do that if you would like me to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll do that.
So, with regard to the approval of the October 9, 2025 special meeting minutes, I would like to table that. And do we table it to November 20th, or do we do it to the earlier November? Is it November 20th?
20th.
I know.
We have
I know, it's the
mean-
budget.
We have no time for anything else. I'm sorry.
Budget only.
I mean,
2 minutes
All
to
right.
spare.
It's okay, we have 60 days, we have two.
2 minutes, huh?
Two meetings.
Two regular, Adam, it's two regular.
Corey,
meetings, correct?
just because I took all your time. tonight.
Okay, so can we table those special meeting minutes until the November 20th meeting?
So moved. Second, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I just want to clarify to reflect what actually happened.
Okay, very good. And do we want any more discussion?
No.
Good, all right.
Oh, actually, no, these are not my minutes, these are your minutes.
It's, yeah, it's the special session. Saba, you want to do a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto,
Yes.
Commissioner Corley,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
The item's been tabled.
And with your permission, President Gibson, I will send the transcript to you and ask that you distribute it. if
Okay.
That's fine.
That's fine. Let me see.
Adam, where does we have minutes, we have a recording, where does a transcript fit in? Because we don't know the origin of the transcript. I'm happy to. I'm asking Adam. May I respond, seeing it's my transcript? It's a legal question for Adam.
The minutes are the document the board approves to reflect the general proceedings of a meeting. There's no, the law does not require the minutes to be a transcript of the proceedings. The minimum requirements for minutes are the items that were debated, motions, the votes that resulted from the motions, and any more details up to the board's discretion.
Okay. But I would argue that the recording is probably also the official version, and the transcript is supplementary.
I mean, the board votes on the minutes, so the written minutes end up being the official record of the meeting. That doesn't mean that the YouTube video is unreliable, it just isn't the minutes.
Right.
So you can always watch the video, and the video doesn't get changed, the video doesn't get modified or
Yeah.
manipulated. We're not using AI. So it is, the video is what it is. So the transcript can be used as an aid in producing minutes if you want to, but it's, that level of detail is not legally required.
Thank you. May I now? See?
You may.
What I was doing was I was offering you my personal transcript as an aid, so you would not have to go in and listen to the video. I was doing this as an accommodation to the board. What I did was I took the video, and then I, through a program that I had, that I use a lot for legal work, I had it transcribed, so that I could actually see what had happened at what time. So I was offering this as an assistant to help you review,
Okay.
not to have it in any formal capacity, just as an accommodation
Okay.
to the board.
All right. Could we have a roll call vote on this motion to table, or to table this motion?
We already did.
Oh, we did it. I'm losing my mind. I thought you just said it's a roll call. I'm losing my mind. All right, now we are moving to the executive director's report.
The quickest part. Weekly status reports, legal expenses, and the golf club update is attached to the agenda, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Very thorough. Thank you very much.
Any questions for anyone?
No, I read every word.
Thank you. All right. So now we move to the commissioner comment section, and we can, if we can limit it to 3 minutes, we might actually leave tonight earlier than we ever have since I've been on the board. Mr. Seaman?
I'd like to make a request that I sit next to Commissioner Corley at the next meeting.
Because you want to take more things from him?
I want to sit next to him.
I'd enjoy that.
Okay. That's it. Thank you to staff. Thank you for the meeting. Listen, meeting, like spending time with Greg Fields on that pre-board meeting, fantastic. Costa, thank you for your patience with me. So, thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Ms. Rapp, Commissioner Rapp?
We're relieved that I've already given some of them that I'd planned to give now before Barry Dunn, Elsa left with respect to the comprehensive master plan. But I did want to just extend a warm welcome to Saba. Thank you for joining us. We're delighted to have you. I'm already impressed with your efficiency at having updated the agenda with your name and correct contact information. So welcome. I hope that it's been a wonderful transition and that you'll still get to enjoy a few nice weather days here in Winnetka before it turns.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
You'll have to go up to the lakefront and take a peek at what we've been talking about.
No, I had a tour with Costa.
Did you? Okay.
Oh,
It is beautiful.
Learned all about it.
It is
You've
beautiful.
really lived it until you've had a tour with Warren.
I hope you went on a nice.
That's not a first day.
Yeah, that's a. Do we have any other commissioner comments, or are we ready to adjourn?
Thanks, Jim, for leading us through the budget process.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
A lot of work. All right, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9, is it 13?
Yeah.
Wow. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, wonderful. All in favor?